The story kicks off with a kid named Minato Kusunoki leaving an offering at his grandpa's shrine, giving us a glimpse into his supernatural life. But before he can blink, a strange little girl snatches the snack and bolts. His grandfather watches the boy's reaction, realizing his powers have finally awakened, and the girl vanishing into thin air leaves the poor kid absolutely terrified. It looks like the boy is lucky enough to only see the good ones. Grandpa explains that this ancient house spirit is named Zashiki Warashi, warning Minato not to throw a fit if she steals his treats again. After all, she's crashed at this place way longer than he has. The old man tells him to be generous and share his food, promising that this rare ability to see the unseen will totally save his life one day. Taking this wisdom to heart, Minato nods along. Years flash by and a grown-up Minato moves into a remote countryside estate near the mountains. A local guy named Haruma Saiga immediately spots the newcomer, since strangers stick out like a sore thumb in this tiny village. Minato finally reaches his family's abandoned estate, but the property is practically screaming haunted house. Because his eyes filter out the bad stuff, he's totally blind to the danger, completely missing the massive dark miasma choking the area. The whole property looks super hazy to his vision, tipping him off that the vibes are definitely off. Shrugging it off, he reaches for the door handle to head inside. A wild shock of static electricity blasts him, magically making the ink on his handwritten address note fade away. Just like that, the heavy dark miasma instantly evaporates. A sudden gust of wind violently yanks the paper from his hand, blowing it straight onto a distant mountain shrine covered in cursed energy. The fierce breeze carried it miles away in a matter of seconds. The paper instantly nukes every evil spirit in the area, purifying the holy site. Back at the estate, Minato realizes the property is an absolute wreck, blowing his mind with just how massive the land actually is. Wasting zero time, he jots down a massive to-do list for cleaning out the endless piles of cardboard boxes. He needs to get his life fully organized before tackling this mess. While he's busy vacuuming the bathroom, his overprotective mom calls to check if he's eating properly. He groans, reminding her he's a grown adult while scrubbing the entranceway. He double-checks if it's really cool for him to hog this giant estate alone. He complains that the massive garden feels way too huge to manage. His mom explains a deceased relative built it for retirement, leaving it completely abandoned for 2 years. He questions why nobody ever bought such an awesome house. His mom admits some potential buyers checked it out but ran for the hills. She then reminds him he's got all the time in the world to fix it up. Thanks to his magical sticky notes nuking the dark miasma, he remains blissfully unaware of the invisible danger. He just assumes the joint is cursed and powers through cleaning the entire house. Stepping outside, he spots a bunch of mysterious flowers that definitely weren't there yesterday. A professional gardener shows up the next morning, aggressively scrubbing every inch of the yard until it sparkles. The neglected space gets a total glow up. Seeing all the freed up soil, the gardener asks if he wants to plant some fresh greens. Minato agrees the yard looks super bare, but as a sinister dark miasma secretly creeps onto the gardener's shoulder, he mentions that he doesn't want to make major changes since he's just crashing here temporarily. The poor guy complains about some nasty shoulder aches, wincing in pure discomfort. Right on cue, a gust of wind violently slaps one of Minato's sticky notes straight into him. The second the paper taps his skin, his heavy arm suddenly feels light as a feather. The gardener is completely shocked that his chronic pain just vanished in a blink. Minato realizes the ink on his memo has completely vanished, finding a weird mugwort plant sitting by his front door. Honestly, this isn't even the first time his handwriting has magically erased itself. Minato shrugs off the mystery, especially after the gardener swears he didn't plant the mugwort. But the very next morning, a fresh Japanese raspberry randomly spawns on his porch. He briefly catches a glimpse of a tiny creature scurrying away, triggering a wave of nostalgia for his grandpa's old advice. It totally reminds him of the house spirit leaving cute gifts when he was little. He hits the stores to buy a proper thank you present for his secret gifter. Setting out some premium sake and sweet treats as an offering, he finally unloads his massive shopping haul back at the house. Out of nowhere, a fluffy creature strolls into his yard, chatting him up like an old friend. The beast flexes that he's actually a legendary Yamagami, leaving Minato completely stunned that a dog is casually speaking to him. Minato instantly guesses this mountain god is his secret gifter. He decides to literally just call him Yamagami while the deity just stares, weirded out that this human isn't screaming in terror. Thanking the god, Minato hands over the sweet treats, which the dog happily inhales. The deity admits his powers are super drained right now, so when Minato offers sake to wash it down, he has to decline. Minato hands him a cheap store-bought bottle to sip on. The god requests this basic water instead of booze and is mind-blown, claiming this liquid rivals his own sacred mountain springs. The deity praises Minato for being an absolute lifesaver. He explains that Minato's handwriting literally nuked the evil spirits invading his shrine. That's the real reason he came down here to say thanks. Vicious spirits had been running wild on his turf while he was nerfed. The dog god confirms that Minato's ink acts like holy fire, making it super satisfying to watch those pests get obliterated. Minato finally pieces together why his notes keep vanishing into thin air. He scrambles to come up with a cover story when the gardener suddenly bursts into the yard to grab a forgotten tool. Yamagami smirks, revealing that normies can't actually see him, prompting Minato to pour him another drink, especially after the gardener just smiled and left without noticing a thing. This time, he hits him with the spicy, sparkling water. The carbonation completely catches the deity off guard. He ends up loving how the bubbles violently tingle his tongue, quickly recovering from his initial shock. Minato is thrilled the god approves of his beverage choice. Asking if anyone has ever praised his calligraphy skills, Yamagami admits he has no clue why the human's writing is so overpowered. Minato recalls carving a wooden nameplate for a school project back in the day. His dad ended up proudly hanging the masterpiece on the wall since their family runs a rustic hot spring inn. A random customer randomly praised his messy childhood handwriting. The mysterious guy insisted Minato make a second sign for his own house, begging them to never take the original carving down. The dude literally offered to pay cash for a custom sign. Minato carved some fresh plates for his new estate, fully embracing woodworking as his favorite hobby. Minato shows off his work and Yamagami instantly senses the raw holy energy radiating from the wood. Minato quickly slaps one plate on the front entrance and another out back, following the dog god's command to mount the signs immediately. A massive magical shield instantly activates around the estate. The god explains that this ultra-rare ability needs to be trained, leaving Minato shook that his basic woodworking completely blocked out all evil spirits. If he levels up, his barrier magic will become unstoppable. Crushing some tasty snacks on his next visit, Yamagami happily accepts the sweet treats Minato bought just for him. Suddenly, the dog starts glowing like a radioactive light bulb. He explains that a god's power feeds on human respect, completely crediting Minato for his flashy new upgrade. Minato respectfully claps his hands in prayer, triggering the dog to shine even brighter than before. He genuinely thanks the deity for blessing his home with his presence. The god strikes a proud, majestic pose, but Minato begs him to dim the lights before he goes completely blind. Meanwhile, a creepy abandoned warehouse is crawling with nasty demons. Harem spams magical incantations to exorcise the horde. Shiori and Kotsu jump into the fray, backing up their co-worker against the remaining cursed monsters. A rogue spirit smashes through the window, forcing Harem to parkour after it before it slaughters innocent civilians. Minato casually strolls down the street with a grocery list, completely unaware that a supersonic demon is charging right at him. The monstrous entity instantly turns to dust the millisecond it touches the boy. Since it was a super high-level threat, Harem's jaw hits the floor in absolute disbelief. The demon was erased from existence in a flash. Harem rushes over to check on the civilian, only to find Minato annoyed that his grocery notes magically vanished again. The boy complains that his ink got completely wiped out, ruining the list he wrote to jog his memory. He aggressively scratches his head, trying to recall his errands. Muttering about weekly essentials, Harem steps in and points him to the nearby drugstore, guessing that he probably needs trash bags. Minato flashes a grin and bounces off to shop. The next morning, Yamagami sneaks onto the estate at the crack of dawn, leaving Harem still sweating over who that overpowered kid actually is. Stepping outside, Minato's jaw drops at his fully restored yard and gorgeous koi pond. Yamagami flexes that landscaping is child's play for a mountain god, proving he's got way more skills than the boy ever imagined. Exhausting his mana literally shrank the dog down a size. Several days pass as Minato walks home from an errand, assuming his furry friend has fully grown back by now. Hoping the dog is doing alright, he stresses over the deity ghosting him all week. He sprints into the garden for a reunion, but only spots a random squirrel chilling in the grass. Panicking over his missing friend, Minato is shocked to see Yamagami has shrunk down to the size of a rat, even though hearing the god's voice brings him total relief. Looking like a pocket-sized Pomeranian, the god offers absolutely no context. Minato demands to know what kind of crazy spell burned up that much mana. Before the dog can explain, 3 tiny puffballs roll into the yard. Minato's brain short-circuits at the idea of the old man giving birth to triplets, instantly assuming these are his biological kids. Yamagami introduces them as his magical minions, the Martins, confirming male dogs definitely don't give birth. He literally split his own soul to spawn these little guys. Minato finally gets why the god got so tiny. The 3 furballs eagerly shout out their names, Torika, Utsugi, and Seri. Devouring the fluffy cassella cake Minato offers them, the Martins boldly claim it's the most delicious meal of their entire existence, acting like wild animals over the Western pastry. The god sighs, pointing out they literally just spawned into the world minutes ago. The squad goes full goblin mode with joy when Minato promises an endless supply of cake. Minato finds the scene absolutely adorable as the babies get knocked out cold on the floor from a food coma, but his jaw drops when he sees Yamagami has magically regenerated back to his giant size. The dog ignores his confusion and warns him about an incoming guest. Harem stands frozen at the front gate, questioning if he just walked onto holy ground. The intense spiritual pressure radiating from the estate has the exorcist totally spooked. Minato swings the door open and immediately recognizes the guy from the street. Flashing an official business card as a government onmyoji, Haruma steps inside to chat. Haruma gets straight to business, asking if the kid nuked that demon earlier. The exorcist complains about a massive spike in cursed monsters lately. Minato plays dumb, though he clearly remembers his ink vanishing during the chaos. Haruma begs to buy a stack of his holy talismans, venting that the government is dangerously low on capable fighters. Minato looks super confused until the dog whispers that the guy just wants his sticky notes. Minato just stares blankly at the intense exorcist. The request is totally baffling, considering his so-called talisman was literally just a grocery run for snacks. Yamagami chuckles, promising the human definitely can't see him. Haruma looks like his brain, just factory reset upon hearing that the supreme demon-killing weapon is basically worthless trash paper. He can't believe an absolute amateur casually one-shot a boss monster. Eager for a sample, Haruma bows in gratitude, accepting Minato's offer to scribble down a fresh note. Haruma braces for a sacred mantra but violently chokes on his tea as Minato lists out Sakura Machi and kiwi dumplings. The kid is deadass just writing down a massive pastry order. Haruma waves it off and acts like he isn't having a breakdown, slightly worrying the boy. But deep down, the exorcist is terrified by the insane magical pressure radiating from the ink. While Haruma questions how a basic dessert list can hold god-tier stats, staring at the holy energy glowing from the paper, Minato suddenly slumps over in total exhaustion. The dog clarifies that his mana tank is officially on 0. Handing over the ultimate weapon of sugary snacks, Minato taps out for the day. The exorcist bows, swearing this is more than enough firepower. Minato tries to reject the fat stack of cash, but Haruma aggressively slides the payment onto the table. The kid argues his notepad was literally bought at a dollar store. Refusing to take no for an answer, Haruma promises to wire even more funds later, claiming this magic is absolutely priceless. The agent stubbornly refuses to back down, swatting away Minato's rejections. Yamagami nudges the boy, whispering to just secure the bag and stop fighting. Realizing the exorcist is way too stubborn, Minato decides to throw in a bonus gift out of guilt, finally pocketing the cash. Grabbing a Sharpie, he casually doodles a pentagram on Haruma's palm. Haruma's eyes widen at the sheer destructive force swirling inside the ink, instantly recognizing the raw magic as an expert on Myoji. Answering a frantic SOS call from his squad, Haruma kicks into high gear, rushing to provide the heavy backup they desperately need. The squad panics, screaming that this raid boss is impossible to solo. Haruma crosses his arms to block as the massive beast dive bombs straight for his face. Flashing his life before his eyes, he freezes up, but the Sharpie doodle on his hand literally vaporizes the demon on impact. Miles away, Minato snoozes in bed, completely clueless about his god-tier assist. He already blew all of Haruma's reward cash, crying over his empty bank account the next morning. He dropped the entire bag on expensive bakery treats. Crying tears of joy over how premium the cakes taste, the little Martins interrupt his financial crisis. They feel guilty eating such pricey snacks, taking his reassurance as a green light when Minato tells them to shut up and eat like kings. He's already stuffed his face way too much, causing Sari to yell at Utsugi for grabbing a second helping. Meanwhile, the dog god gracefully savors his elite historical sweets. The legendary 200-year-old pastry melts right on his tongue. Realizing none of these magical beasts have any portion control, Minato just smiles at the chaotic family. Giving them cheap dollar store snacks just makes them sad. Since they have zero self-restraint, Minato hits the pavement to hunt for a part-time cafe job. Realizing minimum wage won't feed a pack of gods, he accepts he'll have to downgrade their snacks. Completely unaware of what's about to happen, he cashes in a ticket at a sketchy raffle booth down the block. The booth worker screams that he just hit the jackpot. Slapping a massive 100,000 yen voucher into his hands, the clerk leaves Minato standing there completely paralyzed in shock. He immediately sprints to the liquor store for some top-tier sake, riding the ultimate high, but the universe isn't done with him yet because the second the door swings open, confetti explodes right in his face. He gets handed 2 legendary bottles of premium booze entirely for free just for being the 333rd customer on their 333rd anniversary. He tries to play it off as pure luck, having won back-to-back lotteries all afternoon, but by the time he hauls his loot home, he realizes his stats are completely broken. Surrounded by massive piles of free stuff, he questions his sudden RNG boost. The dog god points directly at a tiny turtle chilling in the pond, clarifying that this isn't human magic at all. That little guy is Reiki, one of the 4 holy beasts. His divine aura has been feeding Minato insane amounts of luck all day. The boy is shook, having absolutely zero clue when a literal god moved into his backyard. The turtle is paying him back for erasing that monster in town. Right up until his mom randomly dials his phone, Minato calls Cap on the whole story. She screams that he just won a massive 1 million yen sweepstakes. Acting as a translator, the dog god reveals what the silent beast wants, while the boy drops to his knees to worship the holy turtle. Reiki officially claims the pond as his new gaming setup. Minato pours the little legend a cup of that premium sake, throwing him a legendary welcome party. The turtle teleports to the cup at lightning speed, transforming into magical seeds that Minato immediately buries in the yard. A glowing orb suddenly drops down from the sky. Yamagami facepalms because the kid literally planted unknown magic seeds before asking what they do. Minato innocently shrugs off the mistake. The dog god just smirks, telling him to sit back and watch the crazy results. Minato is ambushed by 2 total strangers demanding a bite while bringing fresh cookies out for the squad. Yamagami casually waves at the uninvited guests. He introduces the duo as the legendary gods of wind and thunder. These guys are literally painted in ancient scrolls, making this an insane crossover which naturally drops Minato's jaw to the floor. Thinking these divine beings look more like cute mascots, he tosses them some cookies. The dog barks back, swearing he's way too tough to kill, after the duo admits they thought Yamagami was permanently dead. Crashing the yard, they instantly fall in love with the chill atmosphere, having sensed the vibes in this neighborhood getting heavily upgraded. Soon enough, their eyes lock onto the premium liquor the turtle is chugging. Fully satisfied by the feast, the wind god offers to bless the boy with a fraction of his insane magic after Minato slides them a fresh cup of sake to keep the party going. Snapping his fingers, a magical breeze wraps around Minato, permanently unlocking his wind powers. The surge of energy leaves the kid totally speechless. Yamagami coaches the total noob to visualize a storm. With zero prior experience, Minato fires off his first spell and successfully rustles a tiny leaf out of Utsugi's hands. He gets instantly humbled when both gods mock his weak-ass breeze, crushing his initial hype. He severely needs to grind his stats to make it actually useful in combat. The dog god just stares in disbelief as Minato asks if this god-tier magic can be used as a leaf blower. Meanwhile, Haruma is back on the battlefield fighting for his life. Haruma flexes Minato's grocery list to effortlessly vaporize a monster, pushing back the massive swarm of demons surrounding him. Even though the ink is rapidly fading, the raw firepower still blows his mind. Acting like a total brat, Ikijo violently demands Shiori cover his flank, screaming in pure terror as a beast corners him. He fiercely reminds her they're supposed to be a team. The girl slowly backs away, leaving him defenseless, shivering in absolute fear. Haruma swoops in like a hero, slapping the monster with the grocery list and instantly saving the day. While Shiori bows in gratitude, Ikijo furiously glares at Haruma, noticing the glowing ink magically vanishing from the paper. Confronting Shiori in private, he viciously interrogates her about the origin of those magical shopping lists, but she genuinely has zero clues, forcing him to ignore her desperate apologies. He aggressively grabs her collar, absolutely disgusted by her uselessness. Shiori snaps back, demanding to know why he has such a massive hate boner for Haruma. She boldly claims he's just jealous of his rival's raw talent. She sprints away to safety the second the truth cuts deep and he loosens his grip. Seething with rage, Ikijo swears he'll crush Haruma no matter what. Yamagami flexes that his sacred ground is literally immune to bad weather, interrupting Minato as he notes the storm outside has passed. Minato is stunned that magic controls the climate, but gets completely distracted by the insane growth rate of his newly planted seeds. The sapling is already huge. Pestering the god for answers, Yamagami reveals it's a legendary camphor tree. This beast of a plant serves as the ultimate holy guardian of the property. Minato quickly splashes some water on the dirt, stressed that the magical plant might need fertilizer. Mission accomplished, he tosses the dog god another tasty treat. Completely losing his mind over the flavor, the god bites into the famous hot spring buns. He aggressively claims he could inhale 1,000 of these bad boys. Out of nowhere, Minato announces he's going on a hardcore hike up Mount Hojo. The boy wants to pull up and pay his respects properly, since it's literally Yamagami's domain. The god strictly warns him that this hike is basically a death trap, touched by the boy's devotion. But Minato smirks, claiming he's already built for the challenge. Flexing his heavy-duty hiking gear, he learns the Midway Shrine is practically deserted nowadays. Yamagami promises the first half of the trek is easy mode, sending his little minions to act as GPS guides. Hitting the trail with the martens, Minato quickly realizes he severely underestimated the terrain. The deeper they push into the dense forest, the worse it gets. The martens scream at him to watch his step, proving Yamagami totally lied about this being an easy hike. Getting roasted by his brothers for weighing the poor human down, Utsugi lazily hitches a ride on Minato's back. Minato waves it off, babying the little guy since he's light as a feather. The other minions complain he's spoiling Utsugi too much. Pushing forward, the squad aggressively wades through a raging river. Squeezing through a tight canyon, they finally discover the hidden shrine anchored by a massive tree. The structure is completely trashed. The martens tell him to chill, claiming the god doesn't care about chores since Minato already gives him VIP respect. This spot is the whole reason humanity worshipped the dog god back in the day, so Minato refuses to leave this legendary historical landmark in ruins. Fired up by his speech, the three minions jump in and help him scrub the place clean. Satisfied with the spotless shrine, the crew pops open some snacks for a picnic. Just as they relax, an eerie chorus of screaming birds violently echoes through the canopy. The martens instantly panic and sprint into the bushes. Minato chases after them down a sketchy hidden path, utterly confused by their sudden fear. He catches up to the squad at a waterfall where they are locked onto a massive threat. The boys confirm a lethal demon is lurking nearby. For the first time ever, Minato's eyes glitch out, letting him see the sinister black fog. The shadow monster suddenly dive bombs Utsugi. Barely dodging the lethal strike, the tiny guy dives into Minato's arms screaming as the crew quickly realizes this spirit hijacked a human host. Minato reminds them his eyes naturally filter out the bad stuff. They must be facing an absolute raid boss-level threat because this demonic energy is so strong it's actually glitching his vision. Making poor Utsugi violently gag from the smell, Toriko warns that the toxic miasma is a literal death zone. Sari screams at Minato to whip out his overpowered grocery list before they get wiped out. Minato pulls out the sacred paper, begging for a handwriting nuke to save them, but violent attacks force him back, proving melee range is totally suicidal. Trapped in a corner, a crazy strat suddenly clicks in his brain. Channeling the power of wind, he hurls the notes high into the air, sending them flying straight at the evil spirit. Thankfully, when a single note lands a clean hit on the beast, the resulting explosion is massive enough to completely obliterate it, making up for the few tags that completely missed their mark. Morphing back into the poor possessed creature, the dark sphere trapped inside drops to the dirt. When Minato steps up to check on the beast, it completely ignores him and bounds up the mountain. Leaving Minato absolutely stunned by its speed but glad it's safe, the creature hits the summit in a flash and completely vanishes from sight. Catching up with Yamagami later at home, the boy receives a huge thank you for scrubbing down the shrine. Promising the kid will figure it out eventually, Yamagami quickly brushes off Minato's questions about the mysterious mountain beast. Moving on to a new mystery, the boy suddenly spots that the giant camphor tree has completely paused its growth. Reiki excitedly trots over to grab his attention right as the others quickly assure the boy that the tree is absolutely fine. Rushing over to crack the front door open, Minato prepares to greet a totally unexpected surprise guest. Mistaking the dragon-like creature for the massive beast he rescued on the mountain, Minato happily invites the guest inside once the surprisingly tiny monster offers a super polite greeting. Zooming toward the sacred tree in a total trance, the tiny dragon, freshly introduced by Yamagami as a legendary holy beast named Aryu, unleashes a surprisingly fierce roar. Since he never expected bad weather to ruin this sacred space, the pitch-black clouds swarming the sky totally catch Minato off guard as the heavy rain starts pouring down out of thin air. Kicking into overdrive to sprout at a crazy speed, the sacred tree leaves Minato in absolute shock. Once the mystical plant reaches a massive new size, the tiny dragon casually floats back over to him. Explaining that the little guy wants to claim their pond as his new home, Sayuri steps up to translate the dragon's happy chirps for Minato. Assuming Reiki doesn't mind the new roommate, the boy happily gives him the green light. Reiki is totally pumped about having a new drinking buddy according to the Martins, especially after Minato pours a cup of premium wine that the tiny dragon absolutely loves. Wrapping up the vibe, Yamagami adds that the mythical beast is incredibly thankful for the epic hospitality. When the tiny dragon was stuck in full goblin mode possessed by an evil spirit, that quirky onmyoji named Harem was the absolute legend who pulled off the exorcism and saved his life. Shocked but totally relieved to hear the dragon survived such a brutal ordeal, Minato learns the miracle was all thanks to the pentagram he had drawn on Harema's hand. Later that week, the boy happily welcomes Harema inside to hand over some freshless talismans and accept the sweet gifts he always brings. Totally forgetting that Harema is blind to the spirit world, Minato bursts out laughing when he catches Yamagami drooling heavily over a fresh block of soft red bean jelly. To the old man, the teenager just looks like a weirdo giggling uncontrollably at thin air. Admitting the flashbang spell packed a crazy punch, Harema awkwardly shakes off the weird vibe and requests a grid crest this time because the star shape just doesn't match his actual family symbol. Chilling at a local bar with Kotsu hours later, Harema flexes the proper grid crest that an apologetic Minato freshly inked onto his hand. Sipping his drink, Kotsu praises the kid's blessed memos but admits chucking flimsy pieces of paper at evil spirits is a massive headache. Asking the kid to write the overpowered spells onto sturdy business cards, Harema flashes a smug grin and reveals his absolute genius fix. Kotsu nearly chokes on his drink, busting out laughing at the image of chucking office supplies in a supernatural warzone. Groaning in pure frustration over the ruined anime joke, Kotsu mockingly asks if Harema plans to slip into a leotard to fight crime. Realizing the tragic generation gap killed the mood, he finally drops the teasing and gets dead serious. If the rest of their cutthroat squad uncovers the kid's true power, they'll drag an innocent civilian into a literal war zone. Warning his friend to keep his head on a swivel, Kotsu bets that the obnoxious Ikijo has already caught the scent. Praying that the man's petty grudge won't cause things to spiral out of control, Kotsu knows it's way too late since Ikijo already witnessed the raw energy firsthand. Proving his dark paranoia was completely justified, the absolute worst-case scenario kicks off immediately. Gripping a fresh shopping list in his hand, Minato strolls casually down the busy pavement the very next afternoon. Spinning around to drop a quick apology after bumping into a stranger, he instantly locks eyes with a furious Ikijo. Completely thrown off by the intense hostility, Minato watches the angry man shoot him a death glare and aggressively stomp away. Feeling totally creeped out, the boy mutters that the guy didn't need to stare at him like an absolute psycho. Thrilled that his sneaky setup went off without a single hitch, Ikijo flashes a deeply malicious smirk as he plots his next ruthless move. He successfully slapped a hidden tracking talisman directly onto the clueless boy's back. Opting for a classy brush pen because the thick strokes feel way more legit, Minato sits down at home a bit later to draft another shopping list. While the boy scribbles, Yamagami spots Ikijo's sneaky tracking talisman buzzing around the property, immediately triggering Haruma's dark warnings from the other day. Since that toxic rival got a good look at Minato's overpowered artwork, Haruma knew his worst enemy would mark the boy as a prime target. The Onmyoji specifically warned that the stalker uses a creepy paper shikigami to spy, begging them to blast the drone on sight. Confirming the invasive paper pest is indeed Ikijo's spy tool, Yamagami instantly nukes it into ash, refusing to let a bottom-tier scrub disrespect his turf. Haruma had heavily warned them to stay vigilant, leaving the wolf shaking his head at how incredibly foolish humans can be. Nervously demanding to know his master plan, Shiori reluctantly trails behind Ikijo as he tracks down the boy's hidden address. Before the arrogant jerk can brag about extorting the kid's talisman stock, she hears a mystical bell and instantly realizes the property radiates massive divine energy. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the lunatic orders Minato to drag his feet outside immediately. Completely blind to the heavy spiritual aura, Ikijo angrily spams the doorbell. Barely 60 seconds pass, yet the impatient jerk just cranks up his volume and throws a massive tantrum on the porch. Frantically begging him to chill out, Shiori watches the arrogant fool demand the door be opened instantly for his royal visit. Tuning her out entirely, the deranged man winds up a vicious kick to bust the hinges wide open. The fabric of time completely freezes as an eerie bell echoes through the air, catching the lunatic right before his sneaker smashes into the wood. Without even processing the reality shift, Ikijo crashes hard onto the ground. The creepy courtyard looks insanely grim and absolutely drenched in nightmare fuel. Blinking away the dizziness, Ikijo stares up at Yamagami's shrine. Desperately wondering where he is, his panicked voice randomly warps into a demonic echo. Screaming Shiori's name into the void, he quickly realizes he is dead alone, even though he swears he was standing on a normal suburban porch a literal second ago. Scrambling to his feet, he sprints blindly into the dark woods to escape the nightmare. Smashing his skull directly onto a jagged boulder, Ikijo falls victim to a thick tree root erupting from the dirt. Blood pools around his lifeless body, but in the blink of an eye, he violently gasps for air and opens his eyes. Glancing at his wrist, he realizes his expensive watch is frozen on the exact same minute. Finding himself teleported right back to the creepy shrine courtyard, his brain totally short-circuits. Trying to cope with the madness, he convinces himself the stupid glass just shattered during the heavy fall. Rewinding the clock to see how this mess started, we find Minato chilling at his desk writing a list while Yamagami flips through a dessert catalog from the legendary Echigoya shop. However, jumping back to the terrifying present, the sinister rustling of dead branches instantly spikes Ikijo's heart rate. Immediately complaining that chunky red bean paste is absolute trash compared to the smooth stuff, Yamagami stares at the fresh sake buns advertised in the magazine. Recognizing the shop's name as his regular hangout, Minato eagerly invites his grumpy roommate along for a quick grocery run. Promising the nervous boy that only humans with insane spiritual awareness can actually perceive his furry form, Yamagami tells him to chill out. Stepping into the bustling city marks their very first public hangout together. Leaving her clueless friends sniffing empty air, a random schoolgirl suddenly points out a crisp, refreshing mountain breeze as the duo struts past. A few blocks down, they casually brush shoulders with a sweet old lady. Figuring out that only super devoted or pure-hearted folks can sense the deity's massive vibe, Minato watches the grandmother instantly drop her head in deep prayer. Pulling a quick detour into a fancy ceramics shop, he proudly points out a premium drinking bowl on display. Refusing to back down, Minato argues that slurping from a beat-up basin looks incredibly sad. Yamagami crosses his arms, grumbling that his old chipped dish works perfectly fine. The boy firmly believes a literal mountain god deserves a vessel with some actual class. The grumpy wolf swears he doesn't need pampered furniture, right until his giant paws sink into some high-end velvet and he instantly falls in love. After locking in the bowl purchase, the kid announces they are hunting for a comfy floor pad next, even with the massive beast melting into the plush fabric. Commissioning a custom-built gigantic cushion, Minato points out that the standard size looks hilariously tiny under a massive beast. Steering them toward Echigoya, the cheerful shopkeeper instantly recognizes the boy as the new neighbor from the hills. Skipping the small talk, Yamagami nudges the boy to passionately complain about the chunky bean paste recipe on his behalf. Minato takes a closer look and is stunned by how insanely healthy the old man appears compared to last week. After bagging some sweet treats, the baker leans over the counter and asks if the the kid has explored the local mountain trails yet. The baker's eyes light up as he asks if the boy ever crossed paths with the legendary holy dog on the peaks. Nodding casually, Minato says he's hiked up a few times already. The sudden trivia question makes the teen freeze, desperately trying to avoid dropping a dirty lie. Confidently replying that he's never met any magic dog, Minato catches a heavy glare from Yamagami, who snarls that he is a majestic wolf, not a mutt. Finding a clever loophole to dodge the truth without actually lying felt like an absolute win. Leaning in close, the old man whispers about a pure, big-hearted phantom dog that patrols the peak. Playing dumb, the teenager asks the baker to spill the tea on this mysterious furry guardian. He then launches into a dramatic flashback from his reckless teenage years. Stumbling upon an ancient wooden shrine, he finally locked eyes with the legendary beast. Way back then, he wandered completely off the trail and found himself hopelessly lost in the dense woods. The absolute unit of a canine let out an earth-shattering bark, sending the terrified teen sprinting for his life. This terrifying game of high-stakes tag dragged on for miles in the dark. No matter where he ran, the massive shadow kept cutting him off, aggressively snapping its jaws. Eventually, he crashed through the brush and magically popped out right at the safe town border. Pounding his chest, the baker firmly claims his furry savior was an Okuri Inu. Standing under the streetlights, it finally clicked that the scary monster was actually hurting him out of danger. He deeply respects the legendary escorting yokai that stalk the highlands. Obviously, the deaf baker completely misses the spiritual tantrum going down in his lobby. Throwing a massive fit, Yamagami yells that he is a divine god, not some low-level demon mutt. Minato just flashes a warm smile, totally charmed by the wholesome local legend. To repay the life-saving favor, he constantly hikes up the trail to dump fresh, baked goods at the altar. Paying massive respect, the old man proudly slapped the title of Holy Dog onto his hero. Stepping back onto the sunny street, Minato confesses he is blown away by how lively the baker looks today compared to his usual zombie-like state. This depressing diet ruined his spirit, so while a deity can't magically cancel the Grim Reaper's contract, Yamagami reveals the poor guy's organs were shutting down, forcing him to totally abandon the greasy fried snacks he loved. He easily juiced up the baker's stats to let him feel like a superhero during his final chapter. Arriving back at their peaceful property, the kid carefully mounts their shiny new wind chime. Minato realizes his roommate is the secret MVP keeping the shopkeeper bouncing around, all because the wolf refuses to let his favorite sweets supplier bite the dust. Watching the breeze, Yamagami aggressively devours his fresh bakery loot. Right as the greedy god prepares to inhale the limited edition pastry, Minato ducks into the bathroom to scrub off the city grime. The front yard erupts into chaos, with a screaming Ikijo spitting mad disrespect at their front door. Naturally, the arrogant jerk pins the blame entirely on Harema's supposed sabotage. Instantly annoyed, Yamagami banishes the loudmouth straight into the nightmare loop dimension, leaving the guy entirely clueless. Boiling with rage, he punts the wooden shrine and sprints into the fog, finally wondering if the kid inside the house cast a curse, right before a bell tolls again. Snapping awake on the exact same patch of cursed dirt, he remembers the earth completely vanishing beneath his sneakers and dropping him straight into a pitch-black abyss. He makes another desperate dash for freedom, only to get instantly pancaked by a falling boulder. The sheer psychological torture absolutely shreds his sanity. Every single escape attempt ends in total disaster, forcing him to take a brutal swan dive off a cliff and respawn into a never-ending loop. Eventually, his heart just gives out from the sheer physical exhaustion of marching through hell. Crawling over to the wooden structure, he bursts into pathetic tears and throws out a massive apology. Gasping for air back at the starting line, the broken man accepts that he might be stuck here forever. He literally begs the unseen forces to spare him, swearing he regrets every shred of disrespect he ever threw at the sacred turf. Suddenly snapping back to reality, perfectly suspended midair right before kicking the kid's door, Ikijo realizes weeping like a total coward in front of the mountain deity actually worked. Connecting the dots, he violently jerks his leg back and crashes onto his butt in pure terror. He frantically shakes her, demanding to know how many days she waited outside for his return, but she calmly replies that they literally just walked up the driveway. Standing awkwardly on the porch, Shiori watches the grown man act like he just saw a ghost. His deranged babbling leaves her totally lost for words. That tiny noise acts like a starter pistol, sending Ikijo sprinting for his life down the street. Breaking the silence, a gentle chime echoes from the garden overhead. He screams at the top of his lungs, leaving a massive dust cloud behind while inside the house. Swearing he heard a maniac leaning on the buzzer just a second ago, Minato steps out of the steamy bathroom and asks if they have company. Licking a crumb off his finger, Yamagami lies through his teeth, claiming absolute zero visitors showed up. Glad to know the hike into town paid off, Minato casually mentions he soaked in the tub a bit too long. Swerving the topic entirely, the wolf praises the limited edition pastry, finally admitting the chunky paste actually slaps. Fanning his red face, he complains about the heat, leaving the mountain god tilting his head in sheer confusion. Getting nostalgic, Minato confesses he really misses the soothing hot springs from his old hometown. Yamagami knows the boy usually speedruns his cleaning routine by jumping in and out of the shower. He just wanted to melt into the hot water for a minute, dropping a hint that gets the beast's ancient gears turning. Catching a heavy whiff of sulfur creeping through the hallways, Minato immediately starts investigating. Waking up the very next morning, his jaw hits the floor when he pokes his head out the back door and spots his monstrous roommate kicking back in a brand new steaming lagoon. Having a private spa attached to your backyard is a massive flex. Stripping down to a towel, Minato eagerly hops into the boiling pool alongside the tiny Martins, absolutely loving the vibe. Scanning the area, he realizes the loud duo of Reiki and Uryu are nowhere to be seen. He proudly reveals that the beastly trio used their magic to excavate the pit before getting completely wasted together under the stars. Bubbling the water, Yamagami figures the party animals are currently passed out at the bottom of the koi pond. Grinning from ear to ear, Minato promises to buy them a thank you gift for building the ultimate chill spot. Overheating, Minato drags himself inside and collapses onto the living room hardwood to soak up the glorious chill. Pushing his luck in the intense heat was a bad idea. One of his little spirit friends panics, frantically waving a fan over the dizzy human's face. Without warning, Utsugi dive bombs out of the glowing branches, frantically chirping that a major issue just pulled up outside. Catching his breath, Minato promises the worried sprite that he is totally fine. Flattening his ears, Yamagami locks onto the incoming energy signature, confirming another random guest is invading their turf. A few beats later, the exact same mountain cryptid he rescued peers nervously from behind a bush. Throwing on a shirt, Minato jogs over to the front porch but finds an empty driveway at first. Playing peacekeeper, Sari trots forward to intercept, relaying the message that the giant fuzzball just wants permission to enter the house. Still shaking like a leaf, the legendary god is way too terrified to actually form human words. Opening the door wide, Minato waves the massive beast inside, where the creature officially names himself Kirin. Thankfully, Sari steps up as the MVP translator, feeding Kirin's thoughts directly to Minato. Minato gives a warm, easygoing nod, making the nervous beast overjoyed that they can actually talk, fueling a massive translation chain. The first message is a massive block of gratitude for bailing him out of that demonic mess on the peaks. Kirin bows deeply, swearing that regaining his sanity was a miracle, leaving him forever indebted. He plays the perfect host for a solid 30 minutes. Vowing to carve the boy's heroic deed into his heart, the beast pours his soul out, while Minato just stands there flashing a polite grin. However, the mythical deer simply refuses to shut up, forcing Taraka to tag in for a completely burnt-out Sari just to keep the translation going. Pushing through the fatigue, Taraka sleepily relays the beast's final point, emphasizing the intense gratitude. Pushing into hour number 2 of his epic autobiography, the soothing rambling knocks every single spirit out cold, leaving only Minato awake to endure it. Building up to his grand finale, the holy creature offers up the ultimate reward. Without missing a single beat, Minato politely thanks the giant magic deer for the insane gesture. He just vowed to crown the teenager as the supreme ruler of 50% of planet Earth. However, he smoothly rejects global domination, absolutely shocking Kirin to his core. In his experience, mankind consists of bloodthirsty monkeys who constantly butcher each other for dirt and gold. Tripping over his words, the beast demands to know why any human would pass up infinite power. Popping out of nowhere, the legendary twins Fujin and Reijin casually explain that this specific kid just doesn't carry that toxic greed gene. Breathing a sigh of relief, he thanks the duo for running interference. Being a warlord doesn't actually buy happiness, a fact the weather gods loudly endorse, saving Minato from a terribly awkward conversation. Getting a closer look, he suddenly realizes the floating babies have packed on some serious height. Treating the ancient myths like actual family gives them genuine respect, which flexes their newly restored limbs, as the twins admit they are finally sizing up to their original terrifying forms because of his pure energy. This acts like an insane power-up for forgotten deities, leaving them deeply thankful. Watching the culinary magic, the tiny Martins lose their minds in absolute awe. To celebrate the upgrade, they pull out a massive fresh fish and instantly chop it into high-tier sashimi slices for the whole crew. The sheer precision required to fillet a raw tuna using invisible wind blades is totally unheard of. Right now, his magic only pumps out weak desk fan breezes. Turning to their human boss, they excitedly ask if he can pull off the same invisible ninja trick, making Minato awkwardly admit it's a dream goal. Wanting to prove he isn't completely useless, he steps back for a quick live demo. The gentle gust feels amazing against Yamagami's fur, but when the wolf accidentally lets out a massive sneeze, a panicked Minato instantly cuts the power. Watching the kid's aura flare, Fujin confirms that the boy definitely holds the keys to the wind. Squinting his eyes, Fujin calls out the kid's obvious mental block, asking if he's terrified of his own shadow. Dropping his gaze, Minato confesses the chaotic energy seriously freaks him out, so Fujin challenges him to go full goblin mode just once to establish a baseline. The wind god bets the teenager is paralyzed by the fear of accidentally shredding someone he loves. Chewing on the risky idea, the boy hesitates. She drops a total bombshell, revealing that the protective family nameplates snapped in half and all the backups are completely trashed. Before he can commit to the dangerous training arc, his smartphone buzzes with a frantic text from his mom. Begging him to craft emergency replacements, she forces Minato to table his wind lesson for now. It happens entirely too often to be simple bad luck, so he turns to his resident paranormal expert for advice. Grabbing a fresh block of wood, he wonders aloud why these sturdy signs keep randomly exploding. Without blinking, Yamagami casually drops that a ghost is definitely snapping them on purpose. Sparking Minato's memory of that little Zashiki Warashi girl he bumped into before, the wolf insists a hidden supernatural roommate has claimed his family's property. Yamagami clarifies that the house spirit destroys the boards to sound the alarm whenever his anti-demon wards run completely dry. The kid's messy scribbles actually generated a holy barrier, shielding his clueless parents from evil. This totally explains the creepy childhood memory where a heavily nailed sign kept mysteriously plummeting to the driveway. Knowing he needs to ship reinforcements ASAP, Minato doubts his rusty skills, but Yamagami pushes him to evolve his banishing magic to the next tier. Since leveling up his wind control is the only path forward, a massive stat boost will allow the boy to inject god-level durability into the cheap wood. Yamagami orders him to follow close behind as they march toward the spooky back door for some hardcore training. Pausing in sheer terror, he almost backs out of the sketchy idea. Gripping the handle, he rips it open and stares directly into a swirling cosmic portal. Ignoring the hesitation, the wolf shoves him forward, forcing the kid to stumble through a glowing red gate and land smack in the middle of an ancient, endless forest. Yamagami brags that his fuzzy little henchman built this entire dimension from scratch. The tiny fox twins are already chilling in the clearing, waiting for his arrival. Staring up at the towering trees, Minato is totally mind-blown that the pint-sized spirits crafted such a massive map. Smirking, the giant god dares him to unleash absolute hell, bragging about the sheer scale of the artificial wilderness that feels completely insane. He promises the kid can burn his magical stamina without holding anything back, though Minato still clutches his chest in fear. Rolling his eyes, the mountain lord snaps that Mother Nature won't care at all. He whines about causing permanent eco-damage to the gorgeous timber. He bluntly explains that every single leaf is essentially a hologram, practically begging the boy to carve the trunks into toothpicks. The wolf barks an order to lock in, drop the cowardice, and swing for the fences. He's given the ultimate green light to chop, blast, and obliterate the digital landscape. Taking a deep breath, Minato spreads his stance, fully committing to ripping the safety switch off his chaotic element. The kid's irises flash neon white as a violent vortex rapidly balloons around his sneakers. Before anyone can blink, the furious pressure doubles in an instant, spawning a literal mini tornado that violently rips through the fake canopy and shakes the dimension. The awesome spectacle doesn't last, as the raw devastation is so intense that the tiny foxes literally cling to Yamagami's leg to survive the hurricane. Because just 3 seconds into his ultimate move, the boy violently cuts the engine and staggers from extreme vertigo. Blinking away the headache on his couch, he learns he completely dumped his mana bar in one shot. His brain basically blue screens, forcing the wolf to drag his unconscious body back to the real world. Groaning in embarrassment, Minato apologizes and admits he desperately needs to grind more levels. The brutal grind finally pays off, allowing him to forge heavy-duty nameplates and overnight them to his mom. Refusing to quit, he locks in and spams the wind ability for the next straight week. As the quiet weeks roll by, violently blasting all the dead yard leaves into a neat pile, the overpowered kid figures out how to actually weaponize his magic for the coolest household chore ever. Wrapping up the exhausting landscaping in record time earns a rare compliment from the giant beast on the porch. Popping out of the breeze, Fujin disagrees completely and hypes the boy up. Wiping his sweat, Minato humbly claims he's basically a total scrub compared to the actual wind god. He praises the teenager for genuinely applying his brutal training to everyday tasks. Minato quickly redirects the credit to his brutal master, acknowledging the endless grind ahead. The insane upgrade in his precision control speaks entirely for itself. Laughing like a psycho, Fujin promises the kid will eventually pack enough firepower to literally slice a hater's entire mansion in half. He even shuts down Raiden's tempting offer to unlock an overpowered lightning skill tree. Waving his hands, the peace-loving teen furiously denies wanting any part of domestic terrorism. Trying to shift gears, he randomly asks about the missing foxes, prompting Yamagami to point out their ongoing hardcore boot camp in the backyard. Nodding super seriously, Taraka preaches about purging worldly desires and confronting their inner demons, proving the twins are locked in. Acting like a tiny drill sergeant, Sari boldly declares that their squad is mentally weak. Meanwhile, a completely clueless Utsugi just stares at them like an absolute idiot. Panicking over being left out, Utsugi scrambles to mirror their fancy pose, dropping into lotus position alongside the serious duo who slam their eyes shut and enter the Zen zone. He entirely fakes his enlightenment since he has zero clue how magic works. Getting totally bodied obviously crushed their pride, so Yamagami casually mentions the absolute beatdown the little foxes suffered against that mountain impurity. Bringing a warm smile to Minato's face as he cheers for their sweaty redemption arc, he hopes for the best. Yet, despite the epic setup, the meditating squad instantly snores their way into dreamland, ruining the dramatic moment. The fierce discipline shatters under 5 minutes flat. Fast forward a few hours, Minato gets a craving and tosses some raw sweet potatoes into a backyard fire pit. Reiki politely skips the food, demanding a bottle of heavy shochu instead, so Minato casually offers the leftovers to the floating twins. When the smoking snacks finish, Yamagami and Uryu totally inhale the delicious harvest. Flexing their arrogance, the Weather Brothers smugly decline and decide to launch an unnecessary cooking tutorial on the spot. Tagging in, Raijin calls down a brutal lightning strike, completely nuking the airborne snacks. Whipping up a mini cyclone, Fujin violently rips the raw veggies off the ground. When the smoke clears, the pathetic charred lumps look absolutely radioactive. Turning away, the boy spots a weird trail of fresh apples leading into the thick brush. Minato awkwardly points out the tragic failure, but the cocky deities completely ignore the criticism. Following the snacks, he locks eyes with a trembling Kirin and instantly guesses the beast just returned from a massive world tour. He cheerfully offers the magical guest a bite of their backyard barbecue, completely forgetting the food is currently reduced to demonic ash. Staring at the charcoal, Kirin remembers horrifying history lessons about humans burning witches, while blushing under his fur and giving a tiny nod to Minato's praises. This sends him into a panic attack over ending up on the exact same spit. Trying to play wingman, Yamagami drops a secret tip that the majestic beast secretly loves throwing back cold beers. Picking up on the serious stranger danger vibes, Minato sighs at the lack of progress. Promising to stock the fridge for round 2, the boy's train of thought derails as an aggressive doorbell ring pierces the silence. Dragging the heavy Onmyoji inside, a frantic Minato tosses him on the floor after ripping the front door open and catching Haruma literally collapsing face first into his chest. He anxiously waits with a cold glass of water for the guy to boot back up. Waking up, Haruma nervously apologizes and complains about the absolutely suffocating spiritual gravity crushing his lungs. The poor guy looks like he just ran a brutal marathon through hell. Sweating profusely, Minato hits him with a terrible poker face, lying that the air feels totally normal. Desperate to save the man's sanity, Minato rapidly pivots the conversation to the surprise visit, hiding the fact that an entire squad of overpowered deities, mythical dragons, and tiny foxes are aggressively death-staring the poor human. This allows Haruma to formally beg for an insanely dangerous favor. Stunned by the crazy request, the boy listens as the old man reveals the horrifying lore about a cursed doll, abandoned in a ruined temple after the head priest abruptly passed away. A literal boss-level demon is stomping the elite exorcist squad, leaving Haruma no choice but to draft the overpowered teenager. Experts assume the core monster used to be a legit forgotten deity. Marinating in pure dark energy, the creepy toy mutated into a legendary nightmare. The toxic radiation pouring out of the site is so lethal that average ghost hunters literally melt if they step foot inside. Haruma passionately explains that the infected temple sits in a pocket dimension, just like the magical turf the teenager currently calls home. Minato totally fails to see why a high school kid is the best draft pick for a holy war. Dropping a massive bomb, Haruma boldly admits he knows the boy can clearly see the terrifying menagerie of mythical beasts currently haunting this living room. Because his body absorbs that insane pressure daily, the old man bets he can easily waltz through the Phantom Gate. The gig is completely up. Staring into empty air, Haruma gets absolutely steamrolled by the god's killing intent, freezing his blood in sheer terror. Snapping his fangs, Yamagami aggressively blocks the conversation, furious that a weakling is trying to exploit his favorite human. Forcing the tiny foxes to scold the giant wolf for acting like a psycho, the sudden explosion of toxic rage catches Minato slipping. Thankfully, the furry squad manages to talk the ancient deity off the ledge before he bites someone's head off. Shaking uncontrollably, the old man pretends he's perfectly fine while desperately trying to guess what invisible monster just threatened his life. Releasing a breath he didn't know he was holding, the teenager finally relaxes. Ignoring the trauma, the boy turns back and asks the wolf if breaching a corrupted dimension is actually doable. Flexing his divine resume, he reminds everyone who really runs the spiritual underground. Yamagami smirks and guarantees it's a walk in the park, but to loan out his legendary VIP access, the wolf demands a massive favor in return. Shoving handfuls of elite artisan rice cakes straight into his mouth, Yamagami selfishly hoards the premium snacks Haruma dragged over. Tying his shoes at the door, Minato casually asks the beast if it's time to roll out. Puffing out their chests, the foxes brag about crushing their brutal boot camp. Pausing his chew, the wolf brutally rejects the invite, forcing the tiny martens to step up as the backup squad. With his minions massively leveled up, Yamagami basically claims the mission is way below his pay grade. He aggressively scribbles down a fat stack of overpowered magic tags for his arsenal. Accepting his fate, the teenage exorcist rapidly gears up for the raid. Zipping his bag shut, he throws up a peace sign to the lazy god on the couch, leaving the beast to lazily bark out some cheap encouragement. Hitting the pavement, he realizes he lost his tiny escorts in record time. Slipping out the front gate, a glowing magic leaf secretly tucks itself into his jacket pocket, completely unnoticed as he catches the downtown express. The legendary bodyguards totally abandon the mission the second they smelled a local bakery. Handing out the treats, he strikes a deal, promising endless desserts if they speedrun this nightmare dungeon. Being a massive softie, he swipes his card for a box of hot pastries, while the foxes aggressively inhale their sugar rush. Narrowing his eyes, Siri points out a specific bird acting like a shady tour guide. A creepy murder of crows suddenly swarms the telephone wires above. Taking the massive hint, the squad nervously tails the flying rat deep into the urban maze. Throwing himself in front of the tiny animals, the brave kid takes the vanguard position. The feathered spy dumps them right at the border of a ridiculously toxic wasteland. Stopping dead at a rotting gate, he spots the birds aggressively avoiding the airspace. Whipping out his phone, he drops a ping to the old man. The raw sludge leaking through the wood is so vile that even a rookie like him can physically see the purple stink lines. Haruma answers through the static, revealing his squad is currently locked down at the rear entrance. Over on the flip side, Kotsu desperately spams his high-level holy papers at the barrier. Standing under a terrifying guardian statue, the boy confirms his drop zone. Sadly, burning through a massive stack of cash does absolutely zero damage. Keeping the seasoned veterans completely locked out of the raid, the cursed wall rejects every single spell without breaking a sweat. Guilt immediately washes over Haruma for dragging a literal child into this meat grinder. Swearing to try his absolute best, the brave teen hangs up and aggressively shoves the wooden doors, after the old man begs the kid to play it safe and orders a hard retreat the second things go south. He is instantly blasted by a nasty magical taser. Refusing to let their boss get rejected, the tiny squad promises to crack the seal. Stepping up, Siri drops the lore that the cursed zone is locked inside a literal alternate dimension. Slapping their little paws against the wood, the legendary foxes channel their hard-earned magic to force the locks wide open. Breaking the barrier, they proudly wave the shocked teenager straight into the nightmare zone. The Martins instantly go on high alert over a creepy noise echoing from the temple, just as Sari points out the main culprit's hideout to Minato. Giving the crew absolutely zero time to brace themselves, 3 heavy-hitting evil spirits violently smash through the walls to ambush them. Minato aggressively barks at the squad to get behind him, throwing out a trusty note to exorcise the threat before the enemy even has a chance to react. With the dark magic instantly banished, 3 lifeless, creepy dolls drop heavily to the dirt. A fresh swarm of wicked dolls suddenly dive bombs straight at their faces, refusing to give the team even a single second to catch their breath. Going full goblin mode, the Martins step up to confidently shred this new wave of enemies into absolute confetti. The older crew members ruthlessly scold a very proud Atsugi, screaming at the kid to stay sharp even after the enemies hit the floor. Proving their point, one of the supposedly dead dolls slowly lifts its terrifying head from the rubble. Snagging the poor boy in a deadly web of its own hair, the cursed toy violently yanks Atsugi high into the sky. It aggressively angles itself to slam him headfirst straight into the concrete. Atsugi drops safely into Minato's waiting arms the exact second Sari springs into action to slice the nasty hair with his razor-sharp claws. Once the area is permanently secured, Sari furiously chews the kid out for being so wildly careless on the battlefield. Minato breathes a massive sigh of relief seeing his squad survive the brutal ambush unharmed, though the heavy presence of hostile spirits still lurking in the temple tells him this nightmare is far from over. The gang stares in absolute horror as the true mastermind, a freaky, corrupted doll, slowly drifts out of the temple shadows. Just one look is enough for them to realize the sheer amount of toxic impurity dripping off it is totally off the charts. Floating high above the roof and unleashing an ear-piercing screech, the monster proves without a doubt that it's the root of all this chaos. As the dark impurity spreads like a nasty plague, a completely exhausted Minato just wants to nuke this boss and go home. Channeling the raw power of the wind to weaponize his exorcism notes, Minato scatters a massive fistful of them directly into the sky. Catching him totally off guard, the wicked doll flexes its reflexes and shreds the attack to pieces with a violent whip of its hair. The devastating counterattack brutally slams the entire Martin squad into the dirt, prompting the battered spirits to scream at Minato to watch his own back as he panics over their injuries. Moving faster than the boy can even blink, the monster tightens a suffocating, lethal grip around him, completely trapping his entire body in a disgusting web of cursed hair. Minato mentally screams out to Yamagami for a clutch rescue, desperately fighting for breath as he realizes he's completely doomed without a miracle. A few agonizing, terrifying seconds pass by in silence. Yamagami unleashes a mighty howl from the sacred garden to shoot them a massive power boost, empowering the Martins as they yell at Minato to stay strong while channeling their own divine magic. Overflowing with this immense godly energy, they prepare to strike back. Dropping a gasping Minato to the floor to free him, the overpowered doll completely crashes down in humiliating defeat. Sprinting over without skipping a single beat, the hero immediately confronts the fallen creature. Minato whips out his trusty pen to draw a purifying line across the toy, watching as it weakly twitches on the floor. Whispering a soft apology for all the brutal pain it endured, he finishes the magical stroke. Successfully scrubbed free of the heavy impurity, the vile dark energy completely evaporates out of the toy. Catching his breath now that the fight is won, Minato asks about the howling, and Taraka happily explains that Yamagami actually beamed them some crazy remote support. Even though they snagged a totally flawless victory, the crew strictly tells the boy to keep his guard up since there are still hostile spirits creeping around the shadows. Discovering a fallen former mountain god in the darkness, Minato carefully steps inside the ruined temple to face the actual final boss. Staring at the massive creature completely possessed by thick impurity, Sari grimly points out how much agonizing pain it's in. Digging deep into his pockets for a weapon, Minato realizes his stash of exorcism notes is completely dry. This throws a huge wrench in his plan to save the deity, especially after Taraka just promised the mission would end the second this guy gets purified. Refusing to throw in the towel, he rapidly scribbles some heavy-duty banishment words on his notepad. He's completely stunned to watch the magic fail to exorcise the beast, even after he shoves the freshly written paper directly into its face. With his primary ammo totally wiped out, Minato frantically pats down his pockets for a backup solution right as Sari desperately asks if he has literally anything else to write on. A violent earthquake rocks the area, signaling the terrifying collapse of this supernatural dimension. Going into full panic mode as massive boulders rain down, Atsugi dives straight into Minato's hoodie to hide. Clinging to him for dear life, he begs the boy to pull a miracle out of his hat right now. Spotting a stray leaf from their sacred home tree hiding in the fabric, Utsugi urgently points it out. Knowing it comes from a deeply spiritual plant back home, Minato logically assumes this tiny Kusunoki leaf packs a serious magical punch. Fueled by a spark of crazy hope, a completely exhausted Minato pushes past his absolute limits to finish the job. He fights through the fatigue to carefully ink a spell onto the fragile, tiny surface of the leaf. Penning the name Kusunoki directly onto the foliage, he successfully blasts the vile spirit into total oblivion using a blinding burst of sacred energy. The massive exorcism leaves behind only the glowing, pure sphere of the mountain deity. With the countdown ticking dangerously close to zero, the entire corrupted dimension rapidly crumbles into dust around them. Watching the supernatural zone violently implode from the outside, Haruma's heart drops in sheer panic knowing Minato is trapped in the destruction. Back on the inside, the hero snatches the glowing sphere and sprints for his life alongside the Martins. Haruma boldly tries to dive into the collapse to save his buddy, but Shiori yanks him back to reality, sternly warning him that running in right now is pure suicide. Kotsu totally backs her up, stating they just get instantly sucked into the void alongside him. Forced to just watch and pray, the team waits anxiously as Minato desperately shields his head from raining debris on the inside. Sprinting even faster on pure adrenaline, he realizes they're going to get permanently erased if they don't escape instantly, thanks to Seri's terrifying warning. Spotting the sweet glow of the exit straight ahead, he burns rubber and sprints faster than ever. But his heart stops when a gigantic, heavy tree abruptly crashes down to completely block their only escape route. Bracing for a brutal impact, the young hero squeezes his eyes shut and accepts he's about to be crushed into paste. Out of absolutely nowhere, a roaring combo of lightning and wind magic violently blasts the danger away. Opening a massive crater in the earth that swallows the entire squad, the godly attack brutally cleaves the falling tree completely in half. Blinking his eyes open after the crazy fall, Minato shakes the dizzy feeling from his head. Still trying to process exactly how they survived the collapse, Minato happily realizes the team is safely back in the normal world. Popping up to take the credit, Fujin and Reijin playfully roast him for being so needy before bragging about their explosive rescue magic. Acknowledging that he'd be absolute toast trapped in that realm without their clutch save, Minato smiles and agrees that their epic rescue was totally wild. Humbly admitting he still has a massive mountain of training left, he later meets up with Haruma to receive a huge thank you. A modest Minato warmly insists he was just happy to lend a hand, laughing off Haruma's claim about owing him a massive favor. Shoving a dope gift into his hands anyway, Haruma politely asks him to send his regards to the deities too. Haruma quickly rejects a fun barbecue invite due to a packed schedule, politely bowing out after Minato thanks him for the generous gift. With their guests speeding off, the squad happily fires up the grill and crushes the barbecue on their own. Yamagami happily bypasses the meat to smash his usual favorite sugary treats, lighting up when Minato casually mentions that Haruma gifted them a fresh batch of snacks. Savoring every bite of a pastry, the god boldly declares that smooth bean paste is the ultimate undisputed champion. Ditching the hot grill to selfishly raid the dessert stash, Utsugi hilariously beats a highly intrigued Yamagami to the punch. The rest of the crew instantly starts yelling at the kid for abandoning the barbecue mid-meal. They fiercely order the boy to clean his plate of real food before inhaling sugar. Stepping up to man the grill, Minato prepares some ice cold sake to serve Fujin and Reijin as they luxuriously chill out in the hot springs. A super shy Kirin awkwardly pokes his head out of the bushes right as Minato is busy pouring the booze. Thrilled when the hero offers him a cold beer, Kirin happily trades him a crazy-looking exotic fruit as thanks. Reiki violently dropkicks the spiky treat across the yard, absolutely disgusted the second he lays eyes on the notoriously stinky durian. Finding his courage, a deeply offended Kirin loudly barks back to defend his offering. He screams that this is a highly respectable delicacy known as durian, passionately denying that it's just garbage. Reiki brutally roasts the guy right back, claiming his nose must be completely broken to enjoy that stench. Demanding the lethally stinky biohazard be permanently banned from the lawn, Ryu aggressively tags into the chaotic screaming match. Refusing to let his precious gift be slandered, a stubborn Kirin hilariously holds his ground. Whispering a quiet but sincere thank you for the life-saving magic, Minato takes a peaceful moment to admire the massive Kusunoki tree. The calm vibe completely shatters when the martins start screaming that the glowing sphere is magically transforming. The mysterious orb abruptly morphs into an adorable little chick, officially bringing all 4 holy beasts into the garden at once. This tiny bird is actually none other than the legendary Ho-Oh, the final missing piece of the puzzle. Casually writing his grocery lists on hardcore anti-evil talismans, Minato proves that living with literal gods hasn't really changed his daily grind at all. Enjoying the peaceful vibe, Yamagami happily smashes a plate of delicious strawberry daifuku. Calling the combo of smooth bean paste and sweet berries a total culinary masterpiece, the god passionately praises the incredibly plump fruit. While everyone chills out, Minato spots a massive flock of local birds completely swarming the tiny Ho-Oh. Even though his brain totally short-circuits at the logic, Minato listens to Yamagami explain that the chick is hosting an outdoor class to teach bush warblers how to chirp. Ultimately, the hero is just super stoked to see the new mythical pet being so wildly popular. Taking a deep breath of the fresh air, Minato realizes spring has officially arrived thanks to the incredibly lively and cheerful energy taking over his garden. But just when the squad lets their guard down to enjoy the perfect afternoon, trouble brews. Far across town, Haruma and Kotsu are busy grinding through a highly infested danger zone, completely unaware that a freaky portal has silently ripped open in the sky. Frustratingly, no matter how many low-level spirits they crush, the endless horde just keeps spawning. Kotsu groans about being completely surrounded by this endless mob of enemies, complaining that the ridiculous numbers rapidly drain their magical stamina. He casually jokes that the Exorcist community literally nicknamed this overwhelming wave the Spring Evil Spirit Fest. Stepping up to handle the trash mob, the Exorcist summons his trusty familiars since he confidently considers these enemies absolute weaklings. In a flash, a wild magical shark and a hungry penguin hit the field to devour the ghosts. Leaving the penguin utterly stuffed and the greedy shark crying for more, the bizarre duo wipes the zone completely clean of spirits. Right as Kotsu promises his pets a bigger buffet, Haruma's phone suddenly pings with a new ghost alert, making him sprint away instantly. Exiting a gift shop with his hands full of souvenirs, Minato is hilariously shocked to realize he's being stalked by a massive flock of birds. The locals immediately start snapping pics and loudly nicknaming him the Bird Whisperer. Becoming a literal town celebrity completely by accident, Minato realizes the tiny Ho-Oh on his shoulder is aggressively attracting the flock. Random strangers now constantly stop dead in their tracks just to snap photos of his majestic entourage. Strolling back home completely unbothered by the crazy attention, Minato chuckles and whispers to the bird that this insane paparazzi circus happens every time they go outside. Along the way, he bumps into the local gardener proudly shaping a bizarre clay figure hedge dubbed Specimen Number 25. Joking that he should respectfully address the weird art piece as Mr. 25, Minato approaches the guy after hearing him mutter to his project. He genuinely praises the bold artistic choice, calling the quirky topiary super avant-garde. Flexing his absolute hot streak, the cheerful gardener reveals the homeowner gave him total creative freedom on the yard. While bragging that his shoulder pain has miraculously disappeared, the guy suddenly spots the insane flock of birds totally hijacking his fresh hedge. Back at the house, a terrified squad of martins aggressively rushes Yamagami, screaming that dangerous abandoned realms are popping up everywhere while Minato is MIA. Down the street, the oblivious hero hilariously plays dumb and speedwalks away from the gardener's bird problem. Realizing his feathery entourage has suddenly vanished into thin air, Minato stops dead in his tracks. Back at home, Yamagami tells the crew to chill out, deciding to personally wipe out the threat since the swarm is too massive for them. Completely shocked that the god is lifting a finger, the martins eagerly rush after his lead. Materializing out of thin air, Fujin and Reijin urgently order the boy to sprint home immediately. They completely validate his creeping suspicion that something is wrong, warning him about a massive, dangerous outbreak of abandoned realms and rogue spirits taking over the streets. Fujin launches into a lore dump about the millions of hidden deities roaming the earth, totally seeing the blank confusion painted across Minato's face. He breaks down the mind-blowing reality that the world is secretly packed with countless overlapping sacred dimensions. Reijin warns the boy that careless gods sometimes recklessly abandon their pocket dimensions. Casually summoning a blinding blast of lightning magic, he absolutely nukes a freaky portal the exact second it violently rips open in the sky above them. Turning up the anxiety, Reijin drops the bomb that these unpredictable rogue doors can spawn absolutely anywhere. Fujin strictly confirms that the rift they just vaporized was a highly dangerous abandoned zone. It could pop out of the ground, float in the sky, or completely blindside an innocent victim. When a clueless human gets instantly sucked into one of these traps, they become victims of being spirited away. Making things 10 times scarier, these portals can aggressively slide through water to hunt. Hearing this grim lore, the terrifying truth finally clicks for Minato about why the birds completely abandoned him. Thanks to his incredibly massive spiritual affinity acting as a giant target on his back, Fujin brutally roasts the kid for acting so chill when he should be sweating bullets. After all, crashing on a heavily enchanted sacred turf has permanently linked his soul to the supernatural. Giving the boy a dead serious glare, Reijin warns him that getting dragged into a hostile dimension is a literal death sentence. He reminds him that soaking in the god's magical hot springs makes him an irresistible snack for monsters. Brutally adding that the kid lacks the muscle to bust himself out solo, Reijin demands he stay frosty before dipping out. Hearing that Yamagami is actively hunting portals, Minato kicks his sprint into high gear. Fujin drops this vital intel while ordering the boy to hustle straight back to base. Far away, the mighty god fiercely glares at the rapidly multiplying rifts ripping across the clouds. Knowing they must hold the line and completely obliterate the threat right here, Yamagami notes that the invasion is creeping uncomfortably close to the house. He violently launches himself to shatter a portal while the Martins rapidly split into strike teams for support. Catching sight of a painfully trashed and ruined shrine, Minato navigates a super sketchy alleyway to cut his trip short. He stares sadly at the horribly neglected structure crumbling in the dark corner. More curious about the invisible speaker than the actual threat, he freezes in shock when a chilling whisper warns him to back off from the ruins. Before his brain can even process the panic, the ancient shrine doors violently blast wide open. Sensing the absolute disaster as the glowing portal forcefully yanks at the boy's body, Ho-Oh instantly morphs into a giant majestic bird and shrieks at the top of its lungs for backup. Despite frantically digging his heels into the dirt, it's totally obvious Minato is going to get swallowed by the magic. The terrifying portal completely swallows both of them, dragging the duo straight into the void. Losing his massive form, the magic bird immediately shrinks back down to fun size in the chaos. Waking up from the brutal crash, Minato checks on his buddy and realizes they are stranded in a super lush, green forest. Recognizing the super heavy, magical atmosphere tingling on his skin, he logically bets they just crash-landed into a brand new Kami realm. Gasping for air, he immediately notices how incredibly suffocating and thick the atmosphere is here. Knowing they need to speedrun this maze and locate an exit ASAP, he starts hiking. Reflecting on Yamagami's lore drop about these dimensions mirroring their creator's brain, Minato totally pauses when he trips over dozens of random wooden crates scattered everywhere. He casually assumes this particular deity is just a massive weirdo obsessed with hoarding wooden boxes. After all, Yamagami confirmed these zones literally replicate a god's ultimate comfort space. Shrugging off the messy Daker, the hero just keeps pushing deep into the woods. Stumbling into a dark cave where the oxygen levels drop dangerously low, Minato finds a lazy woman passed out on the floor who abruptly cracks an eye open to violently complain about the humidity. Judging by her insane entrance, he instantly pins her as the god who built this dimension. Whining that the humidity is completely ruining her precious beauty sleep, she throws a total tantrum about the situation. She freely admits the cave desperately needs fresh air, but outright refuses to fix it because she'd rather just rot in bed. Breaking the awkward silence to ask if she actually owns this dimension, the sleepy boss spots the legendary Ho-Oh and realizes this random kid is absolutely stacked with divine protection. She nods to confirm her identity, but stares at the mortal intruder in absolute sheer confusion. Scratching her head over his uninvited arrival, she correctly guesses he got totally lost in the sauce when Minato fails to give her a straight answer about how he crashed here. Muttering that her front door should be locked tight, she gets wildly offended when the boy drops the news about crazy abandoned portals flooding the human world. A spike of genuine panic hits the goddess as she worries her godly stats are tanking. Peeking into the human world to verify his claim, she winces at Minato's brutal honesty about her shrine looking like a total dump. Admitting he's dead right about the horrible renovations, she shrugs off her lack of time management. Shocking the boy by instantly reading his spiritual resume, she casually points out that he's dripping with Fujin's trademark wind magic. Scheming up a super lazy plan on the spot, she begs the hero for a massive favor. She's honestly mind-blown that a stingy elite like Fujin would share his ultimate buffs with a mortal, so she orders the boy to blast the cavern with his wind skills to properly ventilate her room. Coughing on the ridiculously stale, heavy air that's choking even a deity, she tries to calculate the last time she literally cracked a window. Agreeing to give it a shot, Minato flexes his hands and gets ready to work. Casually dropping a massive history bomb, she notes that humans were still debating the Tang Dynasty envoys the last time she cleaned. Scratching her chin, she tries to convert her lazy naps into mortal years. Minato's jaw completely drops as he does the math and realizes this chick hasn't dusted in over a millennium. Immediately flopping back into her cozy bed to slack off, she cheerfully wishes him luck. Because mortal lives flash by like totally meaningless speedruns to her, she literally doesn't care about the timeline. Before she can start snoring, a panicking Minato forces her to swear she'll teleport him home once the chore is done. Getting insanely defensive when the boy asks for a solid promise, the lazy boss aggressively accepts the deal. She snaps back with massive attitude, demanding to know if he thinks she looks like a deadbeat god. Suddenly snapping her fingers with a fresh idea, the goddess completely ignores Minato's dead silent, judging glare. She rips open a trash portal and commands him to yeet all the annoying wooden crates inside. Unleashing a massive gale of wind magic, Minato effortlessly blasts the mountain of junk straight into the void. This lets the lazy goddess take full advantage of the free labor to completely slack off. Far outside the dimension, the Martins are busy going absolutely feral, shredding every abandoned realm in sight. Strolling up to his chaotic squad, Yamagami aggressively scolds the crew because Utsugi hilariously fumbled the bag and face-planted into a thorny bush. The god furiously lectures them for making an absolutely deafening racket during a stealth op. With Tarika locking down the west and Utsugi clutching the east side, the map is officially swept. Sari proudly reports that he completely wiped out the northern targets as well. Hyping up his team for the flawless execution, Yamagami dramatically announces it's finally time to save Minato. Groaning as a fresh wave of corrupted portals violently rips through the clouds, Tarika finally connects the dots about the rescue mission and agrees they need to hustle. Watching the sky fill with more rifts, the crew realizes this nightmare invasion is literally endless. Crashing the party at the perfect second, Fujin and Reijin hit the battlefield. Making matters 10 times worse, the swarm of toxic rifts is floating straight for the squad's home base. Unleashing a devastating hurricane, Fujin instantly nukes the entire fleet of portals out of the sky. The twin gods smirk and ask Yamagami if he needs a hard carry since he's sweating bullets. Brushing off Reijin's snarky advice to take a breather, Yamagami genuinely thanks them before fiercely commanding the Martins to sprint after Minato while he holds the front line. Watching him completely pop off, Fujin and Reijin are deeply impressed. Rejecting the backup, Yamagami violently erupts with god-tier energy, vaporizing the remaining sky portals into absolute dust. The savage display brings back crazy memories of his ancient, hyper-aggressive volcanic days. Throwing out a wild guess that it's been over a millennium since the peak blew its top, Fujin casually wonders about the volcano's actual kill count. Yamagami aggressively barks at the idiots to shut up, stubbornly correcting their math by stating it was exactly 1500 years ago. Back in the mysterious dimension, the sleepy deity gently flutters her eyes open right as Minato victoriously yeets the very last wooden crate into the garbage rift. Even though she's absolutely hyped to see her bedroom finally looking super clean, Minato brilliantly pulls out some magical leaves from his home garden when she complains the oxygen is still insanely gross. Tossing 6 sacred Kusunoki leaves straight up, the goddess watches in sheer disbelief as the flashy move impresses her. The dazzling wave of purifying magic completely violently deletes the toxic impurity in the blink of an eye. Wildly questioning why a random kid is carrying god-tier foliage in his pockets, she gives him a solid round of applause for the epic cleanse. Minato casually explains he always keeps the clutch items on deck ever since they literally saved his life recently. Heaping a ton of praise onto her new favorite housekeeper, the goddess takes a deep breath of the infinitely fresher and insanely breathable air. Flashing a modest smile, Minato just tells the boss he's totally stoked to be of service. Getting super greedy, the deity practically begs the boy to hand over his remaining stash. She thoroughly inspects the greenery and swoons over its top-tier fragrance the second Minato generously hands over his very last leaf. Swearing to hook him up with a fat reward for the heavy lifting, she catches him totally off guard. Formally announcing that he is now the proud owner of an ultimate sealing ability, she violently jabs her finger right into his forehead to inject the magic. This totally busted cheat code lets him lock away wild emotions, which blows the kid's mind as she breaks down the insane mechanic of sealing invisible concepts. It even works on highly dangerous supernatural powers and toxic personal desires. A massive light bulb goes off in Minato's head as he finally realizes the true nature of all those creepy wooden crates, knowing he now wields the crazy authority to lock away whatever he wants into the void. Nodding with a smirk, the goddess reveals they are literally the physical manifestations of mortal prayers she hoards. This includes brutal feelings of jealousy, totally broken dreams, and even overwhelming magical abilities that drive humans completely insane. She acts as the ultimate vault, sealing away everything mortals desperately beg to forget. Giving him total creative freedom to pick his own vessel, she drops a pro tip that he isn't forced to use clunky wooden boxes to cast the magic. He can hilariously even choose to seal away the sealing power itself if he ever wants to tap out. Frantically shaking her to drop the exit coordinates, Minato listens to her murmur that he can achieve absolute greatness through hard training as she slowly catches Z's. He completely gives up when she starts snoring like a chainsaw, proving she's out cold. Ripping a golden portal straight through the dimension, the Martins clutch up to save the day. Sweating bullets over being permanently trapped, Minato breathes a huge sigh of relief seeing his team. Landing safely back in the normal world, he brushes off the crazy adventure. Haruma logically bets the hero just survived an absolute nightmare on the inside, right as the squad aggressively apologizes for getting delayed by endless rogue portals. Shocking the crew, Minato casually mentions he just hung out with an insanely ancient, lazy boss. Sari casually drops the massive bombshell that he literally just met the legendary Amaterasu, totally ignoring the boy calling her a super unmotivated slacker. Minato's jaw violently hits the floor, unable to match the lazy shut-in to the epic myth. While marching down the street, Minato asks for the cheat code they used to track his exact location, still reeling from how underwhelming the goddess was in person. Sari reveals that Ho-Oh's deafening distress beacon basically painted a giant target on his coordinates. Sari sharply reminds him to pay mad respect to the wind spirits as well, interrupting Minato's promise to buy the tiny bird infinite treats for the clutch SOS. He explains that their invisible whispers literally provided the GPS navigation to the rescue point. Finally connecting the dots that the invisible wind was desperately screaming a warning, Minato gets massive goosebumps remembering the creepy whisper right before the ambush. Sari gently coaches the boy, explaining that tuning into this high-level frequency takes serious practice. Pushing his senses to the max, Minato closes his eyes to hardcore focus on the spiritual wavelengths. He successfully locks onto the cheerful voices of the wind spirits celebrating his survival. The hero bows to formally thank the invisible crew, completely stoked that he leveled up enough to communicate. On the totally opposite side of town, Haruma and Kotsu aggressively pull up to a fresh crime scene. Cockily bragging that they already scrubbed the toxic miasma, two wildly sketchy dudes strut out of the building to brutally mock the boys for being too slow. The arrogant leader violently presses Haruma on why he's trespassing on their turf. Kotsu disgustedly whispers to Haruma that this guy runs a total scam ring, right after the jerk spits out the unwritten rule banning Onmyoji from active hunting grounds and bales. He prays these greedy frauds aren't plotting a massive villain arc. Minato bursts out laughing when he spots Yamagami shrunk down to fun size, the second he crashes through his front door after an insanely long shift. Embarrassed, the mighty god grumbles about totally burning through his mana bar. Dramatically revealing a premium box of Japanese sweets, Minato orders the tiny deity to smash a massive meal to recover his HP. He promises the massive sugar rush will buff the god straight back to his intimidating, original height. Teasing the guy mercilessly, Minato calls his Chibai form incredibly cute, while the god completely zones out to happily stuff his face with the luxurious treats. He jokes that the deity is finally the perfect height to roughhouse with the garden pets. Proudly flexing his status as the legendary mountain god, Yamagami screeches in a hilariously squeaky voice to demand some raw respect. Hours later, a heavily stressed Minato anxiously checks on the unconscious Ho-Oh, terrified the tiny bird completely drained its life force during the epic transformation. Yamagami swears a godly phoenix absolutely refuses to croak that easily, promising the panicking kid the legendary beast is just sleeping off a massive hangover. Letting out a huge sigh of relief, Minato hits the grind to start training his new abilities. He theorizes that trapping massive amounts of exorcism energy is his grand plan to fully master Amaterasu's broken sealing magic. He hopes this acts as a totally busted cheat code for harem in future raids. Copying the exact technique the goddess used, Minato scribbles hardcore runes onto a random wooden lid. Nodding with serious approval, the god admits hoarding raw power like a battery is a genius strat. Slamming the crate shut, he violently pushes his magical energy directly into the wood. The god brutally critiques the messy execution, noting the power is leaking everywhere like a broken smoke machine. Staring blindly at the box since he can't actually see the magic gauge, Minato groans as it's a total fail, proving the seal is painfully incomplete. Minato totally zones out, violently holding back tears of laughter at the god's outrageously goofy pronunciation, completely ignoring Yamagami's strict lecture to mentally visualize the lock. Grumbling defensively, the deity admits Taraka already brutally roasted his horrible accent. Snacking on the treats, Yamagami asks for a quick progress report on the hardcore sealing grind, right after Minato casually bribes him with a fresh plate of sugary desserts. Groaning in frustration, the hero admits his stats are still absolute garbage. Getting bylaid on at the absolute last second for the third time in a row, he furiously vents about a potential homebuyer ghosting him over the phone. A completely baffled Minato just can't fathom why people hate this cozy one-bedroom setup. He scrubbed the floors until they sparkled and laid out a premium VIP snack spread, bragging that the gorgeous backyard literally features a living god as a permanent roommate. It stings even worse getting brutally curved at the finish line. Absolutely demolishing the pastries in seconds, the god plays totally dumb to the real reason everyone cancels, happily claiming the abandoned snacks as his own prize. Yamagami admires the stunning cherry blossom pink and vibrant bush warbler green baked right into the dough. Staring at the beautifully crafted treats, he softly smiles, knowing these incredibly peaceful vibes are the ultimate proof that a perfect spring has finally arrived. Instantly sprouting several cherry blossoms, Yamagami puts in some wild garden work. Minato is totally starstruck, but the god shrugs it off, claiming spring doesn't officially start without the classic blooms. Panicking over Yamagami shrinking down to fun size despite the gorgeous scenery, Minato frantically checks if the little guy is okay. Asking how on earth he just pulled off that magic trick, he watches Yamagami casually smash some Japanese sweets and admit his normal body might take a minute to return. Since it's the absolute easiest method for him, Yamagami explains that he channeled the power straight through his eyes. Hearing this suddenly jogs Minato's memory about the goddess telling him to discover his own unique vibe. Realizing he can use his trusty regular notepads instead of her exact methods, Yamagami nods in agreement, stating it's totally natural for some techniques to fail while others click. This sparks a theory that Minato could actually seal his exorcism powers using his own notes. Hearing the sweet chirping of Japanese bush warblers as he scribbles away, Minato wastes no time getting down to business. Stepping outside, he takes a quick breather just to vibe with the beautiful melody. Declaring the bird songs an absolute must-have for the spring garden, Minato spots a struggling bird and immediately tells Ho-Oh to step up as a vocal coach. Yamagami was totally enjoying the vibe too until that last warbler completely butchered the pitch and ruined the piece. Seeing the fiery bird fully recovered from his massive nap brings a huge smile to Minato's face. Ho-Oh wakes up at lightning speed to ruthlessly scold the off-key singer. Later on, Minato hits the mountain trails with the Martins acting as his personal hype squad. Struggling hard to match their wild pace, Minato asks if this random outdoor trip secretly ties into mastering his sealing powers. He really wants to know why they are suddenly going full goblin mode digging for bamboo shoots. Explaining that Yamagami's turf is absolutely loaded with premium bamboo shoots, Minato seriously prays this mission pays off. Sari claims that sinking his teeth into this fresh spring delicacy might just level up his powers. Back at the estate, Fujin and Reijin chill out in the garden with Yamagami, completely lost in some top-tier liquor. Meanwhile, Minato is already running on fumes with a brutal trek still ahead of him. Admitting he totally kidnapped those annoying human house hunters into his kami realm before letting them walk, Fujin laughs it off. Calling the prank incredibly petty, Yamagami isn't shocked in the slightest to hear it was Fujin's handiwork. Pointing out that Fujin personally trapped the punk who tried to kick their front gate, Reijin smirks. Any disrespectful mortal kicking the House of Kami's door should be begging on their knees for mercy anyway. Fujin doubles down, confidently declaring that the gate-kicking loser totally deserved the punishment. Spotting a rogue, abandoned kami realm floating in the sky, Yamagami notes that Minato's weird aura must be pulling it in like a magnet. The massive anomaly slowly drifts right toward their mountain. Blasting the rogue realm to absolute dust with a casual strike, Raijin mentions that a regular human living inside a divine domain all day is definitely messing with his system. He's met plenty of mortals, but casually attracting pocket dimensions is next level weird. Recalling how Minato got sucked into a freaky dimension just the other day, Fujin figures the divine exposure is mutating him. Yamagami aggressively shoots down Fujin's bright idea to pump the kid full of extra powers for protection. Dropping the dangerous plan instantly, Yamagami warns that juicing him up will literally strip away Minato's humanity forever. Shrugging, Fujin agrees that the only thing that actually matters is how the boy wields the magic he already has, while back on the trail, Minato is struggling. Hitting an absolute wall of exhaustion after hiking forever, they finally stumble onto the massive bamboo shoot patch. The Martins cheer him on the whole way, hyping him up that the finish line is right around the corner. Thrilled to see the endless sea of prime bamboo ready to be ripped from the dirt, a gargantuan bear suddenly spawns out of nowhere in front of him. Minato had just been stressing over the fact that they rushed up here without bringing a single hoe to dig with. Paralyzed in sheer terror, Minato mentally debates playing dead, just as Yamagami's booming voice echoes straight out of Utsugi. Of course, dropping dead now is a terrible strategy since the beast is already staring into his soul. Telling the totally confused Minato that he's staring at a literal gentle giant, the god commands him to chill out. Yamagami swears up and down that this massive predator is completely harmless. Instantly forgetting about the deadly predator, the bear lets out another deafening roar. Minato is just too blown away by Yamagami hijacking Utsugi's body, though the god smugly reminds him that controlling his own minions is child's play. Acting as the ultimate translator, Sari reveals the beast just wants to thank him for pampering their boss. Ripping into the dirt with raw bear claws to instantly unearth a fresh shoot, the giant proves its gratitude for how Minato treated Kirin. Watching the absolute unit clear out the entire patch in mere seconds, Minato correctly guesses the loot is all his. He lets out a massive sigh of relief, thanking the heavens this fluffy tank is an ally. Bowing in thanks to his new furry buddy, the bear blasts another loud roar. Sari translates the beast's aggressive demand that he needs to start munching instantly, proving that these prime shoots are only elite when eaten raw and fresh. Taking a nervous bite, Minato is cheered on by Yamagami to embrace the wild feast. The god preaches that diving into seasonal veggies straight from the dirt is peak cuisine. Absolutely nothing tops the raw joy of eating food right at the harvest point. Knowing raw veggies are a literal ticking clock, everyone scrambles to prep the feast at lightning speed. After handing out portions, Minato asks how this boosts his magic, only for Yamagami to laugh and reveal the greedy Martins just dragged him up here for a snack. Caught off guard by the god's wholesome scheme, Minato admits the fresh mountain air totally reset his brain. Yamagami confesses he just wanted to break the boy's stressful training cycle with a chill nature walk. Realizing he actually bonded with the wild animals, Minato decides the trip was a massive win. Taking Yamagami's advice to finally taste the goods, he lets the crisp, clean air wash over him. Biting into the incredible veggie, Minato's mind is blown by the god-tier flavor. Figuring they need more casual hangout time, he challenges Yamagami to a high-stakes round of shogi collapse a few days later. Dumping the wooden tiles everywhere to lay out the rules, he explains the penalty for making a noise means instant turn switching. The entire goal is to carefully slide a piece out in pure, ninja-like silence. Warning the god that this seemingly simple game is a brutal test of skill, Minato explains the guy with the biggest pile at the end takes the crown. Yamagami struts in with max confidence but gets completely bodied in the first round. Minato gladly runs it back, but the little god's clunky paws make silent extraction nearly impossible, leading him to rage blame the wood itself. Throwing a full tantrum, Yamagami demands an instant rematch. Of course, wrestling the stubborn block forces him to make a loud clack anyway. Going full goblin mode, Yamagami violently shakes the board in pure saltiness. Getting ready to slide his own tile out, Minato begs the sore loser not to snap the game in half. Yamagami shamelessly spams his divine wind to sabotage the play, forcing Minato to angrily call out the blatant cheating. The garden pond suddenly erupts in a blinding glow, cutting their shouting match short. The god casually plays dumb, acting like this rigging is just advanced spiritual training. Explaining that random lost entities occasionally wash up on their shores, Yamagami promises the freak occurrence is totally harmless. Minato had zero clue this sanctuary functioned as a magical lost and found. Exploding from the pond in a violent geyser, Ebisu drops in and locks eyes with the mortal. The water clears to reveal the eccentric guy awkwardly hugging a massive fish. Instantly clocking Minato as the human packing divine upgrades, the fish god grins. Completely clueless on how to handle VIPs, Minato panics because Yamagami has conveniently decided to sleep through the whole intro. Teleporting right next to the startled teen, Ebisu praises the gorgeous garden aesthetic before surveying the area. Minato formally drops his name and asks how this guy knows his face, learning that wild rumors about a superpowered human drew the god here. Spotting Kirin chilling in the yard, Ebisu swears on his life he will never lose a battle to that specific creature. The goofy fish god suddenly stiffens up with an unexplainable, intense rivalry. Ebisu seriously debates if this aggressive chest pain is fierce rivalry or pure, unadulterated love. Leaving Minato absolutely speechless, the human stands there trying to process this bizarre declaration of war. Ebisu dramatically claims his season of romance has bloomed, while Kirin casually grabs a cold beer and ignores him entirely. Deflating the god's ego, Minato awkwardly suggests that this is definitely not a love connection. Spotting the steaming hot spring, Ebisu instantly accepts Minato's offer to take a dip. Pulling magical teiyaki straight out of his giant fish's mouth as a bizarre tip, he makes sure Yamagami is cool with him crashing the bath first. Only caring about the filling, Yamagami shoots up from his nap to demand if the treats have that top-tier smooth paste. Ebisu grins and assures the greedy little guy he brought a full variety pack containing exactly what he wants. Thanking the quirky god for the snacks, Minato pours some drinks for Uryu and Reiki while Ebisu chills in the bubbling bath. The fish god sinks into the boiling water, fully embracing the spa day. Minato gets totally lost when Ebisu cryptically warns that he's severely straying from a normal human path. The fish god drops this heavy comment out of nowhere. Ignoring the ominous vibe, the teen eventually gets back to his grueling training session. Stepping out to the garden for a well-deserved breather, he realizes he's finally getting a solid grip on his sealing techniques. Staring up at the bizarre sun shower weather, he mutters that a legendary fox's wedding must be happening. Shocked by yet another magical crasher in his yard, Minato watches a tiny dark fox spawn and declare they aren't giving any bride away just because it rained. The hyperactive critter immediately demands to know if Minato owns this massive estate. Catching the fox staring a hole right through the steaming hot spring, Minato points out he's only the groundskeeper here. When he invites her to jump in, she violently shakes her head, lying through her teeth about being on urgent business. Calling her bluff effortlessly, Minato baits the trap by casually announcing Inarizushi for lunch. He had just asked how vital this mission was, forcing her to mumble that it wasn't exactly life or death. Even so, she stubbornly refuses to just relax. Snapping to attention at the promise of food, Tsumugi instantly drops her tough act and accepts the lunch invite. Minato tells her there's plenty to go around, prompting her to officially introduce herself as a loyal minion to the neighboring peak's mountain god. Desperately hoping the meal is crafted from scratch, she argues that absolutely nothing tops a home-cooked batch. She admits the store-bought stuff slaps too, but real chefs just do it better. Flexing his recipe, Minato reveals he used fresh wild veggies but humbly warns it might not blow her mind. Tsumugi shuts down his doubts, declaring that a meal crafted by caring human hands is a literal treasure. He still stresses that his cooking isn't exactly Michelin star. Dropping into a deep bow of respect, Tsumugi thanks Yamagami as Minato stands there stunned that the little guy is getting treated like absolute royalty. Feeling highly disrespected by Minato's shock, Yamagami barks that he is a legendary mountain deity. Tsumugi had just spotted the tiny god, earning herself a VIP invite to feast now and hit the spa later. Backing up Yamagami's ego, Tsumugi confirms the tiny dude is actually a top-tier powerhouse. Absolutely inhaling the food seconds later, the little fox literally glows with pure joy after tasting Minato's cooking. Refusing to leave a debt unpaid, Tsumugi forces the boy to accept a reward on the spot. Minato is just hyped that his food was a massive hit. The proud fox strictly declares that owing favors goes against her entire moral code. Handing over a radiant golden peach plucked straight from her boss's elite garden, she warns that this sacred fruit is strictly for gods and might mess up a mortal stomach. She brags that her home turf is just as stunning as this place, even though the loot is highly restricted, suggesting he use the immortal, amazing-smelling fruit as a permanent room decoration. She explains its magic prevents it from ever going bad. Minato awkwardly hesitates, seriously doubting if keeping legendary divine artifacts in his bedroom is a smart play. Shoving the gift into his hands, Tsumugi reveals her master ordered her to drop this off just to flex their superior gardening skills. Holding the glowing peach, Minato nervously asks Yamagami if it's actually safe to keep. He ultimately accepts the wild present with a polite bow. Completely dodging the question of whether he knows Tsumugi's mysterious boss, Yamagami just casually announces he'll snack on the forbidden fruit later. Dropping the subject entirely, Minato points the exhausted fox toward the steaming bath to finally relax. Claiming her prize, Tsumugi happily accepts the spa trip and asks if Minato uses the magical waters himself. After splashing around and soaking up the heat, she waves goodbye and hits the road. She wasn't shocked when he admitted he bathed there daily, bluntly stating his aura doesn't even feel human anymore. Pointing out that multiple gods think he's losing his mortal edge, Minato vents to Yamagami. The creepy comment from the fox is still bouncing around his head. Yamagami coldly confirms the truth, finally making Minato understand that Ebisu meant his soul is drifting far from a normal human state. Spilling his guts, Minato admits he's absolutely terrified of transforming into something else while trying to master his sealing magic. Since he's just a squishy mortal, bathing in divine energy was bound to mutate him. Yamagami orders him to drop the panic, promising the magic won't erase his true self. Swearing on his life that the kid will absolutely die as a normal human, Yamagami demands he go full throttle into his training right now. Minato had desperately asked if his soul would remain intact, relieved to hear he'll always be himself. Digging deep into his childhood memories, Minato searches for clues. Yamagami drops a massive hint that the secret to sealing lies in his past since he's always had the sight. He's been staring down terrifying, non-human entities since day one. Flashing back to when he was a tiny 5-year-old, Minato unlocks a core memory. He recalls the exact afternoon he slid an offering over to Zashiki Warashi. In exchange for the snack, the legendary spirit blessed him with a 4-leaf clover. Sprinting at top speed to brag to his grandpa, little Minato is hyped about the clover left behind for him. We jump straight back to that nostalgic timeline when his spirit-seeing eyes officially activated to spot the house spirit. Thrilled his grandson made an otherworldly buddy, the old man smiles wide. He explains that this ancient yokai has haunted their halls since before he was even a twinkle in his parents' eyes. He tells Minato the clover is just her way of paying him back for the tasty treats. Even with her terrifying age, little Minato instantly bonds with the spirit, running wild around the house. While the old man's veteran eyes track a bunch of invisible yokai the kid can't even sense yet, Minato is busy teaching the ancient ghost all his modern playground games. Watching Minato split a sweet wafer with Warashi, Grandpa smiles at the kid's natural big brother energy. He had just been busy wrangling the more chaotic, messy spirits that constantly trash the estate. A mischievous yokai named Hihai suddenly snatches the hat right off Minato's head. The tired kid had just strolled through the front gates, completely wiped out from playing outside all afternoon. Begging for his gear back, Minato gets brutally mocked by the laughing monster for solid minutes. Reaching out the moment the beast finally offers it back, Minato politely says thanks. Yanking the hat away at the last second, Hihai bursts into absolute hysterics. Whining that the monkey spirit is a massive bully, Minato sprints inside to snitch to his grandpa. Claiming the spirit is just desperate for some fun, Grandpa laughs off the bullying by explaining how miserably bored yokai get. Pouting hard, Minato fiercely argues that being bored is a garbage excuse for being a jerk. Creeping toward his front door the very next day with extreme caution, Minato remembers his grandpa's advice that bridging the gap is entirely up to him. Despite going full ninja, Hihai effortlessly snipes the hat right off his head again. Realizing that jumping and swiping at the laughing troll is getting him nowhere, Minato stops fighting a losing battle. Shifting his strategy, the clever kid decides it's time to negotiate. Backing off, the boy offers a lucrative peace treaty. Stop the pranks, and he gets a premium cassella cake, having caught the sneaky spirit raiding the family altar for those exact sweets just days ago. Minato knows cassella is his ultimate weakness. Slapping away the monster's greedy hands, Minato demands his hat back before handing over the goods. From that moment on, the two actually formed a rock-solid friendship. Pondering the deal, Hihai forcefully jams the hat back on the kid's head and vanishes with his sugar rush. Fast forwarding to the 5th grade, Minato locks eyes with an entity unlike anything he's ever witnessed. This happens years after his grandfather's tragic passing, ending the golden days he spent chilling with his yokai pals. Walking the blazing streets with his buddy Ranmaru, Minato scolds him that whining about the heat is just a mental trap that makes it feel hotter. The sweaty kid is relentlessly crying about the scorching sun. Dropping the fake jealousy act, Ranmaru smugly reveals he's got premium ice cream waiting at home. He had initially pretended to be furious over Minato's upcoming shaved ice treat. Minato was just trying to brainwash them into feeling colder by visualizing icy desserts. Laughing at his dramatic friend, Minato watches Ranmaru collapse onto the pavement in pure heat exhaustion. His smile completely vanishes when the scorching sky randomly shifts into an eerie, unnatural darkness. Backing away slowly as the gargantuan monster creeps out of the shadows, Minato feels his blood run cold at the sight of its massive eye. His grandfather's survival rules instantly echo in his terrified brain. Knowing damn well that wild spirits are built different and highly dangerous, the golden rule was to sprint the second one appeared. Entering full panic mode, Minato screams at Ranmaru to start running for his life. Lying through his teeth to spark some hustle, Minato claims he's just desperate to get home to his shaved ice. Since the normal kid can't see the towering demon, he completely ignores the frantic energy. Whining that his legs are jelly, Ranmaru refuses to move a single muscle, totally tanking the escape plan. Desperately pleading with his lazy friend, Minato promises their safe house is just blocks away. He tugs on Ranmaru's shirt, but the exhausted kid just cries that running in this heat is a death sentence. Looking up in absolute horror, Minato drops his useless argument entirely. The massive yokai has already closed the gap and is looming directly over their shoulders. A sharp, echoing clap suddenly interrupts the chaos. The demonic claws were literally inches from grabbing them. Just like magic, the dark sky shatters, flooding the street with normal sunlight once again. Blown away by the monster's sudden vanishing act, Minato spins around in awe. He has zero clue the random adult standing there just saved their lives. Instead of dropping lore, the mysterious guy just scolds them for risking heatstroke by loitering on the burning pavement. Stepping closer, the stranger asks for directions to the famous local hot springs. Minato bites his tongue on the monster questions to focus on the tourist. Since they are literally locals, the boys instantly know the exact spot he needs. Asking if the guy even booked a bed for the night, Minato leads the way into the bustling town. Hearing the traveler has zero plans, Ranmaru bluntly states that finding a vacant room is basically impossible. Boasting that every single inn in the district is premium and insanely cozy, the kids explain the harsh reality of tourist season. This town is a massive hotspot 365 days a year, meaning walk-ins are doomed. Dodging Minato's suspicious question about how he magically knew the kid lived in a hotel, the stranger confidently checks into Kusunoki's inn. It's run directly by Minato's parents. Thanks to a miracle last-minute cancellation, the mysterious guy effortlessly secures a top-tier room. Splashing around in the luxurious bath, the stranger celebrates his insane luck at grabbing the canceled suite. But the weirdest part is the local spirits acting completely terrified, treating his room like a literal quarantine zone. Lurking over his shoulder to inspect the schoolwork, the man interrupts Minato's angry ranting about his chores. Staring intensely at the strokes of the pen, the guy's demeanor instantly shifts. Giving major props to the beautifully clear handwriting, the man claims the letters literally radiate the boy's pure, untainted soul. Blushing with slight confusion, Minato politely thanks the weirdly deep compliment. Riding the high of that massive ego boost, Minato snaps back to the present day, theorizing to Yamagami that the dude fully sensed his holy elimination powers. Because he took those words so seriously, the wooden nameplates he crafted for the inn turned out to be absolute masterpieces. Explaining the difference between royal onmyoji and regular working-class exorcists, Yamagami pegs the guy as a wandering holy man. That fully explains why the house spirits were dodging him like a plague, before the little god flips the script to ask Minato about his totally neglected sealing homework. Reminded of the exorcist's cryptic praise, Minato finally connects the dots on how his pure soul powers the ink. Grabbing his pen, he aggressively visualizes locking his entire heart into the paper to forge a divine talisman. Yamagami smirks, noting the kid was already practicing the right moves without even realizing it. Flexing his success brings a huge grin to Minato's face. Yamagami proudly inspects the paper and stamps it as a total victory. Meanwhile, in a totally different part of town, Tsubaki and Fujino are casually nuking high-level demons inside a rotting complex. Haruma and Kotsu pull up to the war zone as the girls admit they've completely burned through their own ammo. Pulling the clutch talismans Minato crafted out of his jacket, Haruma knows they desperately need the Jade One's holy cheat codes to survive. Feeling the raw, buzzing energy radiating off the paper, Tsubaki and Fujino are utterly speechless, demanding their own stack of magical ammo. 3 more girls aggressively sprint into the room to raid Haruma's stash. Sprinting for their lives from a literal tsunami of demons, the newcomers beg for backup. Handing out the holy paper like candy without skipping a beat, Haruma acts fast while Kotsu sweats over the insane numbers swarming them. Vaporizing the massive swarm in the blink of an eye, they officially secure the rotting building. It only took 3 of Minato's overpowered tags to wipe the floor with the entire cursed army. Dropping their weapons with heavy sighs, the girls endlessly praise the mysterious Jade One for the bailout. The moment the dust settles and the ghosts are gone, Kotsu leans over to whisper that Haruma's female relatives are gorgeous but way too loud. Instantly shifting gears to gossip about spa days and movie marathons, the girls relax. Begging Haruma to cough up the rest of the stash, Tsubaki barks that they still have a few stragglers to melt before hitting the tubs. Swarming the poor guy before he can even turn around, the girls realize he's making a pit stop at the Jade One's crib. Haruma had just confessed he only had a single tag left, catching an order to restock ASAP. Assuming this mysterious god-tier crafter is a dude, the girls aggressively interrogate Haruma about his face card. Speed walking out of the chaotic room, Haruma desperately ignores their teasing. Kotsu absolutely loses it when Fujino roasts Haruma, claiming her brother is completely blind to male beauty standards anyway. Taking a deep breath to brace himself for the weirdness of Minato's estate, he gets hit with a suffocating wall of spiritual gravity from multiple deities. The second his foot crosses the threshold, the sheer aura almost flattens him. Stumbling into the backyard completely out of air, he realizes the divine pressure has multiplied tenfold since his last visit. Minato just stares blankly, totally clueless as to why the guy looks like he just ran a marathon. Waving off the concern, Haruma strictly gets down to business to collect his ammo. Assuming a violent beast is throwing a tantrum, his head whips toward the pond as water aggressively explodes into the air. Telling the stressed guy to just ignore the splashing, Minato nervously denies any danger. He has absolutely no idea how to casually explain that a legendary dragon is just playing Marco Polo while a spirit tiger naps on a rock. Dropping the fresh stack of holy ammo, Minato flexes a brand new skill he unlocked to trap his pure energy without any leaks. The fact that this kid is casual about raging mythical beasts absolutely blows Haruma's mind. Hearing that the tags are now supercharged and longer lasting leaves the exorcist totally speechless. Bowing in deep respect, the guy carefully packs away the godly weapons. Pointing out the massive bags under his eyes, Minato notes he looks like a walking zombie. Even while talking, Haruma visibly winces from a nasty shoulder cramp. Owning up to the fatigue, the exorcist complains about the recent insane surge of evil monsters flooding the city. Crashing the hangout session because it's been a hot minute, Fujin and Reijin randomly pop into the yard. Welcoming the chaos gods with a smile, Minato listens as Fujin bluntly roasts Haruma's terrible posture. Offering a totally unhinged medical treatment, Reijin suggests blasting the guy with raw lightning to cure his fatigue. He nods along with his brother's roast, genuinely pitying the mortal. Screaming in pure agony as his body short-circuits, Haruma faceplants into the dirt, sending Minato into a full panic. The lightning god had clamped a hand on his shoulder and unleashed a raw electric pulse before the guy could even flinch. Just seconds prior, Minato had warned the blind exorcist about the incoming zap, putting him completely on edge. Ignoring the smoking body on the grass, Yamagami peacefully inhales his candy like nothing happened. Reijin awkwardly scratches his head, realizing his defibrillator punch might have been a bit overkill. Fast forward to the next day, and Minato is still exhausted from playing CPR simulator while the gods just watched. Hitting the streets for a grocery run, Minato's brain is still stressing over the electrocuted guy. Promising the dude's recovery is completely out of their hands now, Yamagami orders him to drop the anxiety. He genuinely prays Haruma didn't suffer permanent brain damage. Shifting priorities back to food, the little god hypes up the elite Sakura mochi they just bought. Halting in his tracks, Minato feels a sickening drop in the atmosphere. He had just agreed to speedwalk home to smash the desserts, but the weird vibe ruins the mood. Sucking the duo straight into the void, a rogue dimensional tear violently activates. The oxygen around them had turned thick and suffocating. A dead, abandoned kami realm had sneakily spawned directly behind the kid's back before he could even dodge. Crashing into a totally bizarre dimension, Yamagami angrily admits his intense cravings for sweet mochi completely destroyed his radar. Confirming it's the rotting turf of a super weak, forgotten god, the little deity nods as Minato scans the creepy wasteland. Having absolutely zero clue where the boss of this dungeon is hiding, the god boldly claims he can just slice a literal hole through the fabric of reality using his wind magic. Minato had desperately asked how they were supposed to escape this nightmare. Demanding to know the fate of the forgotten god if they just dip, Minato halts the escape plan before a single wind blade is fired. Yamagami severely warns that letting an abandoned dimension rot will eventually cause a massive disaster. Smirking at the boy's predictable hero complex, Yamagami knows damn well Minato won't just turn a blind eye. If the darkness here reaches critical mass, the absolute filth will spill over and poison the real world. Dashing off into the gloom to hunt for the missing dungeon boss, Minato wastes absolutely zero time. Yamagami just chuckles, fully expecting this reckless hero behavior from the kid. Stumbling upon a heavily rusted blade leaking pure shadow energy, the duo cautiously circles the artifact. Yamagami confirms the weapon is literally the core entity, blowing Minato's mind since he expected a humanoid god. Yamagami shuts down the idea that human-made junk naturally spawns gods, completely destroying Minato's theory about encountering a legendary sword deity. The truth is that ancient humans actively tortured a wild spirit by trapping it inside the steel shell. Deducing the trapped soul is boiling with rage, Minato feels a sickening tightness in his own chest just locking eyes with the rusty blade. Calling out the hostile energy, Yamagami smirks and challenges the human to make his next move. Deducing the weapon is just violently angry over being forgotten, Minato shocks his mentor. When the god asks if an execution is coming, the teen points at the brutal layers of rust to prove the blade was painfully neglected. Declaring he completely refuses to vaporize a victim, Minato notes the total lack of maintenance. A genuinely worshipped relic would still be shining today instead of rotting away. Blinding the entire Shadow Realm with a radiant flash, he whips out the supercharged Holy Tag. Instead of destroying the sad ghost, his massive brain play is to aggressively purify it. Cheering on the struggle, Yamagami hypes the kid up despite the insane resistance. A basic paper seal would have instantly disintegrated against this level of toxicity. The ungodly amount of cursed sludge refuses to vanish quietly, turning the exorcism into a brutal tug-of-war. Fully admitting that his brand new sealing skills absolutely carried the battle, Minato finally lowers his arms as the holy paper burns out. Even though the metal is still completely crusted in hideous rust, the choking black fog of hatred has been completely vaporized. Yamagami tells Minato to leave the rest to him, though he admits he has zero clue what will actually happen since he's never looked after another kami before. This completely throws Minato off, and he deadpans that those words are the total opposite of reassuring. A blinding flash of light hits the kid the moment Yamagami ignores his panic and taps the intensely glowing sword. Minato finally opens his eyes, totally shocked to find the kami completely missing from the area. Minato lets out a massive sigh of relief when Yamagami casually announces that the kami has been safely rescued. But that chill vibe shatters in seconds as the entire realm suddenly starts caving in on them. Yamagami yells that the dimension is collapsing and urges the kid to unleash his wind magic so they can escape fast, as massive boulders crash down around them. Without wasting a second, Minato jumps straight into action. As Minato desperately brainstorms a wind-powered escape plan, the scene cuts to Kotsu facing off against a massive swarm of evil spirits inside a creepy abandoned building across town. A giant spiritual whale instantly gobbles up the entire enemy mob the second Kotsu calls upon his trusty familiar, number 5. Thanks to the beast's huge appetite, the area is completely purged of danger in a flash. The exorcist gives the beast some solid praise for a job well done, hyping up the majestic whale, but the familiar just whines back at him, making it crystal clear that its belly is totally stuffed. To make matters 10 times worse, Kotsu gets swarmed by a fresh wave of ghouls while his familiar hits its absolute limit for eating spirits. Feeling the pressure, he grumbles to himself about why Ikijo and Shiori are taking forever to show up. Completely defenseless without his gear, Ikijo finds himself hopelessly cornered by his own mob of monsters. Luckily, Shiori swoops in at the last possible second, flexing a stack of talismans to bail him out. She effortlessly obliterates the nasty spirits in the area, but instead of showing an ounce of gratitude, Ikijo whines that she was way too slow, constantly complaining even though she literally just saved his life. A total slip of the tongue makes him accidentally call her adorable, prompting him to blame her slow rescue time on her extra bulk in a desperate attempt to insult her weight and cover his tracks. The sudden sound of a ringing bell abruptly cuts off his rant, just as Ikijo loudly complains that she's becoming a massive burden to him. Hearing that chime instantly sends him spiraling into traumatic flashbacks of Yamagami's nightmare. Shiori simply plays a bell sound effect from her smartphone, feeling pretty smug when she sees Ikijo launch into a full-blown panic attack from her flawless trick. She thoroughly enjoys messing with the terrified guy. Back outside, Tsubaki and the girls are fighting off their own horde of evil spirits. Things look incredibly grim as they get completely surrounded without a single talisman left, realizing their spiritual energy tanks are hitting rock bottom. Tsubaki bravely orders her squad to keep their cool, even though they are totally clueless on how to survive this mess. Out of nowhere, Haruma crashes the party with a brand new talisman and instantly nukes the monster swarm.